Our story begins with a simple yet impossible quest from a goddess. The mission was to save this dying, war-torn world, and our boy gave it his absolute all, carving a path through endless hordes of monsters. Standing alone on the battlefield, he wonders if the long war is finally over, but realizes none of his comrades are left. Suddenly, his body betrays him as he coughs up a lungful of blood. A wave of dizziness hits him, his vision blurring from the sheer exhaustion and pain. He desperately tries to stay upright, but his body just won't move an inch. With his strength completely gone, he collapses onto the cold, hard ground. Lying there, riddled with arrows and bleeding out, he can only think about how damn tired he is. He decides he'll just rest for a little bit, letting his eyes slowly drift shut. He closes his eyes, thinking he just needs a moment to rest. But a system window reveals his name is Kang Hanbit, and this is his 55th time dying in this godforsaken loop. He's absolutely furious, realizing another entire life of suffering has just gone down the drain. Suddenly, a divine hand touches his forehead, and he looks up, completely dumbfounded. He gives her a dead-eyed stare when she casually remarks that his last life was a long one, and who else could it be but the goddess herself, radiating an infuriatingly holy light. She asks if he wants to try reincarnation this time, and our boy just explodes, screaming he's had enough of this crap. Yep, this expressionless being is the goddess who's been pulling the strings all along. He glares at her, remembering she's the one who didn't just summon him, but straight up kidnapped him. It all started an eternity ago when she just snatched him from his old life without a second thought. He remembers how she just blindly threw him into another world, telling him to find airport and save it. From that moment on, his life became a trash-tier video game stuck on a death loop. After 55 cycles of regression and possession, Hez died so many times he can't even count them all. Back in the present, our boy finally snaps, screaming that he's done with this crap and she can find airport herself. She just gives him a deadpan look, explaining that it's impossible because her direct intervention would destroy the world. She even has the audacity to say his physical and mental restoration is working perfectly, completely missing the point. He knows she's not wrong. No matter how he dies, she just patches him up like a broken doll. But the trauma from every single death remains crystal clear, eating away at what's left of his sanity. Completely ignoring his suffering, she asks if he's ready for the next run, casually suggesting regression again. He's so enraged he tries to possess her on the spot, but she calmly states the request is impossible since her body is female. Just as our boy is about to completely lose it, she casually says she was just joking, but her sudden change in tone catches him off guard. Her eyes gleam with a new purpose. She declares that he's fulfilled his role and has earned the right to finally return to his original world. Kang Hanbit is dumbfounded, asking how that's possible when he failed 55 times. But she just says the journey was what mattered. Without another word, she snaps her fingers, announcing she's sending him back immediately. A divine light engulfs his feet as he panics, yelling for her to stop because he still has a ton of questions. Hez dragged away by the light, screaming at her for just kicking him out after everything he's been through. The goddess simply watches him go, stating she's looking forward to seeing what he'll do with his new power. In a blinding flash, the teleportation is complete, and his consciousness fades to black. Suddenly, Hez waking up to the sound of his mom's voice, back in his old room as if it were all a nightmare. Our boy wakes up, his head pounding from what feels like a killer hangover. Turns out, a whole 18 months have passed since he was dumped back into his old life. His memories of Earth, once a total blur from all the regressions, are slowly starting to return. He realizes his mom already left, grimly recalling the goddess kidnapped him right before his military enlistment. So, he had no choice but to serve the full 18 months, only getting discharged the day before. The more he thinks about his stolen time, the more he seethes with anger. He bitterly calculates that counting his past lives, this was his 6th time serving in an army. Trying to adapt to modern life is a nightmare, and he blames that damn goddess for everything. With a shaky internship and university paperwork looming, his future looks incredibly bleak. Just as he's spiraling, his phone starts ringing, and he wearily tells the caller he's on his way. The call was from an old friend, asking if our boy was ready to hit the bars again tonight. Hanbit, feeling every single one of his past lives, sends back a tired meme, saying he's too old for that nonsense. But his friend immediately starts trash-talking, calling him a chicken, and Hanbit can't help but feel provoked by the little punk. Still, he sighs and decides to go anyway. He remembers this kid looked out for him when he was dumped straight into the army, so he figures he owes him one. Suddenly, his friend's tone shifts, revealing the drinks were a joke and he actually has a discharge present for him. A present? Hanbit's interest is immediately piqued. He's actually a little excited to see what it is. Arriving at a cafe, he hears a familiar voice calling his name. It's Ju Yun-woo, his senior from the army who, despite being 5 years younger, had more rank. Hanbit notes how fresh Yunwoo looks, but his friend just smugly replies that unlike him, he's still in his prime. Tired of the small talk, Hanbit cuts straight to the point and asks about the present, but Yunwoo just acts offended. Our boy has zero patience for these games and immediately gets up to leave, forcing Yunwoo to grab him and beg him to stay. Yunwoo finally reveals his gift, reminding Hanbit of that game he mentioned before, the Record Project. He proudly presents a Level 2 membership card for the game, explaining it comes with high-end VR gear for home use. He slips the card into Hanbit's pocket, telling him it's a gift and not to feel burdened by it. With a cheeky wink, Yunwoo mentions the gear costs a cool 5 million won, but for his senior, it's nothing. Hanbit is dumbfounded by the price tag, jokingly asking if Yunwoo is trying to hire a personal guard dog. But our boy turns it down flat, explaining he starts a new job tomorrow and has no time for games, especially with his family's money troubles. Hanbit's eyes narrow as he puts two and two together, asking if making money is Yunwoo's top priority right now. He confirms that work comes before games, leading Yunwoo to sigh that his senior has absolutely no sense of fun. Hanbit snaps, grabbing Yunwoo by the hair and screaming about how gaming doesn't put food on the table. But even while getting his scalp rearranged, Yunwoo insists that if you play Record Project right, you can strike it rich. The magic words hundreds of millions finally get through, and our boy freezes, completely dumbfounded. In a flash, Hanbit's entire demeanor shifts. His eyes go dark as he leans in with a terrifying intensity. He humbly apologizes for his earlier rudeness and formally requests that Yunwoo explain everything in full detail. Yunwoo, now feeling smug, begins his pitch, asking if Hanbit knows about the game's legendary developer, Team Zero. He pulls out his phone, showing a bombshell news article. The founder will hand over all rights to the game to the first player to clear it. This insane announcement apparently poured gasoline on the fire, causing the game's economy and even strategy guides to skyrocket in value. Even massive corporations are now pouring money into dedicated teams, though Yunwoo notes that solo players aren't entirely out of the running. With the promise of a life-changing fortune, Hanbit finally agrees to give it a shot, and Yunwoo celebrates, locking him into the deal. Yunwoo celebrates his successful pitch, eager to get his senior, or Hyung, started. Without wasting a moment, he declares it's time to get down to business, while our boy just looks dead inside. They arrive at a massive venue, a special event zone dedicated to the game. Hanbit is immediately put off by the insane crowd, but Yunwoo just laughs it off, saying this is nothing. Taking charge like the senior he is, Hanbit grabs Yunwoo by the collar and starts dragging him through the horde. Yunwoo explains their first priority is to buy a beginner's guidebook, but Hanbit scoffs, thinking he can just wing it. He warns our boy that this game is brutally unforgiving to noobs, spoken like a true veteran. He presents a special guide that he claims is an absolute lifesaver, telling Hanbit to trust his gaming senior and just buy it. Hanbit reluctantly agrees to at least take a look inside before dropping any cash. But the moment he opens it, a strange purple light erupts, leaving him utterly dumbfounded by its contents. Staring into the book, our boy sees a vision of the goddess, her words echoing in his mind as he wonders why she's here. The book's title is a gut punch. It's a guide to Urport, the very hellscape he just escaped. It all clicks into place. Her cryptic farewell message from 2 years ago finally makes a horrifying amount of sense. His hand crushes the book in a white-knuckled rage as he realizes she never intended to let him go in the first place. Yunwoo's shouting finally breaks through his shock, and our boy snaps back to reality, looking completely lost. His friend mistakes his daze for fear, but Hanbit cuts him off, saying he has a serious question. He points to the cover, asking if Yunwoo has ever heard of the developers, a group called Team Zero. Yunwoo explains that they're a super-secretive company, run by the youngest daughter of some big-shot CEO. Hanbit's mind is racing. This is way too suspicious, and has almost certain they're connected to that trash-tier goddess. But the biggest question remains. Of all the ways she could have trapped him again, why a game? His mind flashes back to the hell she threw him into. It was never just a game. He remembers the sickening feeling of taking a life for the first time, the blood on his hands. The agonizing memory of his own first death still haunts him, a pain he can't forget. He recalls the goddess' taunts and the endless despair, wondering if he's about to walk back into that same hell. But then, a switch flips in his mind. No, this time will be different. This is his chance to end it all. Snapping back to the present, he asks Yunwoo how long it would take to get some starting gear. Yunwoo says it's about 2 hours with same-day delivery and asks for his phone to set up the apps. His friend then playfully points out that he has to buy the book now that he's crumpled it in his rage. They part ways, with Yunwoo promising to log in first and wait for his bro to get set up. Hanbit waves back with a sly grin, knowing full well that for him, this isn't about playing a game, it's about preparing for war. Just as promised, our boy gets home to find a package waiting for him, The gateway to his training has arrived. He can't help but sweat a little, realizing Hez holding a $5,000 gaming console in his hands. Inside is the state-of-the-art full-dive VR gear, a sleek headset and 4 sensor cuffs for total immersion. After changing into something more comfortable, Hanbit gets right to unboxing his new toys, ready to get started. He knows his mom won't be home for a while, but he locks the door just in case no interruptions allowed. Thinking it's better to be safe than sorry, he straps on the cuffs, preparing to dive into another world. Fully kitted out, he lies down on his bed as the gear activates, ready to link his consciousness to the game. Hez suddenly floating in a digital void as the system scans his biometrics. But he feels stiff and wonders why the character customization screen isn't popping up. Thinking it must be a bug, he decides a quick reboot should fix it, and spots what he assumes is the exit button. Without a second thought, he reaches out to tap the glowing system menu, hoping to restart the process. But instead of a reboot, the system glitches out, screaming that character creation has failed and an existing character has been detected. Our boy is left completely dumbfounded as the system logs him in against his will. Before he can even process what's happening, a new body materializes around him, an avatar he never chose. His senses are flooded with the sounds of seagulls and the salty air of a familiar, dreaded place. He's been forcibly spawned into Port City Edlin, a location he knows all too well from his past lives. As he turns, he catches his reflection in a window and freezes, not recognizing the face staring back. He steps closer, a horrible sense of dread washing over him as he examines the avatar's features. The shock hits him hard. This isn't just some random game character. This is the exact face he wore during his final, bloody regression, a memory he desperately wanted to forget. Suddenly, his own gloved hand is slick with blood, and he realizes this must be a twisted message from that trash-tier goddess. He clenches his bloody fist, realizing this is the goddess's sick way of telling him to start over from his worst nightmare. But before he can spiral, a persistent friend request from someone named Loper chimes in, breaking his dark thoughts. The name snaps him out of it. He remembers Loper is Ju Yanwu's username. Our boy is so out of his element he fumbles with the interface, having no clue how to even add a friend. Suddenly, a familiar, cheerful voice calls out to him. It's Ju Yanwu, his old senior, looking every bit the flashy gamer and wondering why he didn't message him sooner. The username, Luxurious Loper, makes perfect sense for a guy as extra as him. Yunwoo is baffled that he didn't customize his avatar, mistaking his forced appearance for some kind of bold confidence. He then asks about his nickname, and when our boy is dumbfounded, Yanwoo tells him to just open his character window. He pulls up his info, and his heart sinks as he sees the name that's been forced on him, Black Dragon. Our boy is absolutely mortified by the cringeworthy nickname, while Ju Yunwoo is dying of laughter in the background. He desperately demands to change it, but Yunwoo explains the harsh truth. Usernames are permanent, locked to your biometric data. Kang Hunbit feels his sanity slipping away, utterly trapped with the trash-tier name. He snaps and starts shaking Yunwoo, who frantically tells him to check his notifications. Confused, he lets go and sees a system window pop up with a loud ding. It's a request to broadcast his gameplay live on Yunwoo's stream, leaving him completely baffled. Yunwoo explains that the game has a built-in streaming platform and that he streams regularly to a small audience. He pitches it as a team-up. Yunwoo handles the hosting, Hanbit just plays, and they split the profits 50/50. Our boy is silent, clearly annoyed but realizing he doesn't have many other options for making money. He reluctantly agrees, confirming the profit split, though he's clearly not happy about becoming a streamer. With a sly grin, Yunwoo tells our boy to just trust him on this. He immediately starts the broadcast, introducing himself as Luxurious Loper and his new partner, the one and only Black Dragon. The chat instantly lights up, welcoming the newbie but mercilessly mocking his edgy username. Hanbit is absolutely fuming as the chat calls him an earthworm, not a dragon, saying his edgelord phase hit late. Yunwoo quickly reminds him to chill out, because getting mad will only make the trolls worse, and they need the money. Taking a deep breath to suppress his rage, Hanbit finally relents and asks what they're supposed to do now. Yunwoo explains that the system recommends 3 basic skills, but Hanbit scoffs, thinking of the countless masteries he learned over 55 lives. Instead of choosing a basic skill, he pulls out a mysterious card, and Yunwoo leans in, wondering what he'll get. The moment he touches it, a blinding light erupts from the card, leaving Yunwoo completely dumbfounded. The light solidifies into a massive, towering wall of countless glowing skill cards, a sight no beginner should ever witness. Yunwoo and the entire chat are left utterly speechless, wondering what in the world is happening. Our boy Hanbit just stares blankly at the sea of skills, completely unfazed by the impossible sight. Grabbing him by the collar, Yunwoo starts freaking out, his streamer instincts screaming that this is either a major bug or a hack. The chat explodes with accusations, while Yeonwoo demands to know how he did it. But Hanbit just asks why he's making such a fuss. Yeonwoo is sweating bullets, his mind struggling to process what he's seeing. Hanbit plays it cool, casually asking if there's some kind of problem with the skill list. Completely at a loss for words, Yeonwoo can only stammer as he tries to comprehend the situation. But then, it clicks. His shock turns to pure ecstasy as he realizes this isn't a bug, it's a hidden skill. He's not just looking at one legendary skill, but an entire screen packed with them, a sight no player has ever witnessed. Yeonwoo loses his mind, pointing out that this is way beyond a simple recommendation. It's filled with icons has never even seen. While Yeonwoo is losing his mind, our boy Hanbit is completely unfazed, recognizing every single one of these supposedly legendary skills. He calmly makes his selection, thinking to himself that it's not a bad start at all. His real plan forms. He'll use this game to grow stronger and finally figure out that trash-tier goddess' true intentions. To start, he decides to go with standard fire attribute magic, a solid and reliable choice from his past life. After choosing his path, he turns to Yeonwoo and asks where he can pick up some quests. Yeonwoo is completely baffled, asking if he's seriously going to start with magic, but Hanbit just wonders what the big deal is. Suddenly, Hanbit gets a psychic blast of pure gamer rage from everyone who ever chose the mage class. He recoils in disgust, demanding to know why magic is treated like such a piece of garbage in this world. Yeonwoo starts to explain the brutal truth. The game is all about proficiency, and magic is notoriously difficult to level up. He reveals that you can't even see your progress until it's maxed out, making it a newbie trap that players constantly mock. Our boy flashes back to his past life, remembering that learning anything required immense talent and effort. Back then, magic was the hardest path of all, a brutal grind that broke most people. Because of this, finding a powerful master to guide you was the most critical step. So, back in the present, he asks Yeonwoo who the magic instructor is, assuming he needs to find a teacher. Hanbit insists there must be a master to learn from, wondering if there's some kind of test to pass. Yeonwoo just grabs him, trying to play it cool and telling everyone his friend is just a clueless newbie. He explains that you don't learn from NPCs. You get a skill book and unlock abilities by grinding quests. Hanbit is dumbfounded. The idea of learning from a book is a luxury he never could have imagined. The thought triggers another memory of him on the ground, begging his old master for a break from the hellish training. But she was relentless, ordering him to get up because there was still a mountain of skills to learn the hard way. Our boy confidently states they're heading to the general store, leaving Yeonwoo dumbfounded as to how he knew. Hanbit explains that's where you buy fire magic from the merchant Julio, but Yeonwoo just calls the guy an ugly swindler. Yeonwoo can't believe they're going to a scammer, but Hanbit insists it's the only way to get the magic book. With pure venom, Hanbit calls Julio a total villain whose magic books are a complete ripoff. Suddenly, a donation alert pops up from Julio himself, and Yeonwoo explodes with joy, thanking him for the cash. Hanbit is utterly clueless, asking if they actually just received money, and Yeonwoo confirms he earned a small cut. He's genuinely surprised by the small amount, and the stream chat goes wild over his innocent reaction. Hanbit then questions if 1,001 is even a lot to Yeonwoo, who smugly dismisses it as insignificant pocket change. This triggers our boy, who declares that if Yeonwoo and 1,001 were drowning, he'd save the money every time. After the chat roasts him, Yeonwoo gets back on track, admitting that despite everything, they still have to go see Julio. Yeonwoo gets impatient and tells Hanbit to get a move on already, but our boy has other plans, asking if Yeonwoo knows where to find a certain magic master. He pulls up a profile for an NPC named Atsubel, a woman with piercing green eyes. Yeonwoo is left completely dumbfounded, staring in total disbelief. He thinks Hanbit's role-playing is getting out of hand, but Hanbit insists this isn't some act. With a wicked grin, Yeonwoo explains that Atsubel is nothing more than a trash-tier quest NPC. She's a one-off character who gets arrested for fraud and theft, never to be seen again. Hanbit just cuts him off, tired of arguing, and declares they're going to find Atsubel anyway. The stream chat starts flaming him, calling him a stubborn newbie with a frustrating concept. Finally, giving into the pressure, Hanbit sighs and agrees to try the Julio route everyone's been talking about. The chat goes wild, betting on whether he's a swindler, while Hanbit begrudgingly agrees to their terms. He smirks, boasting he can do any sexy dance they want after all his practice in the military. Hanbit confidently tells Yeonwoo to follow him, but his friend is confused about why they're deviating from the main path. Our boy just brushes it off, cryptically stating they're taking a shortcut. Yeonwoo is dumbfounded, asking how he knows a route like this, but Hanbit just chalks it up to a gut feeling. They finally arrive at their destination, a place called the Julio shop, much to the stream's delight. Inside, Hanbit lays his eyes on a portly, smiling shopkeeper who seems all too familiar. The man is Julio, and the sight of him sends a jolt through our boy's system. His hand immediately clenches into a fist, a surge of pure rage and memory boiling to the surface. A dark flashback hits him like a truck, revealing that this very man was the reason he ended up rotting in a cell. Yunwoo explains that the game's freedom is so high that messing with NPCs can completely block your progress. The stream chat confirms this, talking about jail time and character deletion, but Hanbit's eyes just glow with pure hatred. Ignoring all the warnings, our boy takes a heavy, determined step forward. He doesn't just walk in. He bursts through the shop's entrance with a clear, violent purpose. With heavy footsteps, he stalks directly toward the counter, his mind set on one thing. The portly shopkeeper, Julio, greets him with a sickeningly cheerful welcome. Without a single word, Hanbit's hand shoots out and violently grabs Julio by his bow tie. He yanks the man forward, demanding to know how a scumbag like him is still living so comfortably. Our boy seethes, calling him a hopeless piece of trash, leaving the NPC utterly dumbfounded. Just then, Yunwoo walks in, completely shocked to find Hanbit manhandling a random shopkeeper. Yunwoo is absolutely losing his mind, realizing Hanbit just assaulted an NPC and is about to get flagged by the infamous Black Dragon Guild. But our boy doesn't even flinch, his eyes burning with a cold fury that promises nothing but pain. The shopkeeper, Julio, is sweating bullets, begging to be let go and asking why he's being treated this way. Hanbit finally shoves him back, his piercing gaze making it clear this conversation isn't over. Trying to regain some composure, Julio claims the spellbook Hanbit was after was just sold. His demeanor suddenly shifts into a slimy grin as he offers to recommend another shop. But of course, there's a catch. He needs a little favor from our boy first. He spins a sob story about a thief breaking in while he was supposedly dozing off. Pulling out a cheap-looking trinket, he immediately blames his rival merchant, a woman named Atsubel. With a smug look, he asks Hanbit to help him catch this supposed thief, dangling the quest like bait. A quest window pops up, offering trash-tier rewards to frame his rival merchant, Atsubel. Hanbit turns away, his mind racing. He knows this is the exact same lie from his past. A painful memory surfaces. Atsubel wasn't a rival, she was his magic mentor and benefactor. Because of his connection to her, he was framed by Julio and thrown into a cell by bribed guards. Back in the present, he calmly asks what happens to the thief if they're caught. Julio explains that once the thief is imprisoned, Atsubel will be ruined by association. The sheer audacity of this scumbag makes our boy's blood boil as he clenches his fist. Completely oblivious to the building rage, Julio just smirks and asks for an answer. But before he can even finish his sentence, Hanbit grabs him with lightning speed. He then starts trashing the entire shop, leaving Julio and Yunwoo utterly speechless. After the rampage, our boy pulls out a familiar bag of gold and tells the scammer to shut his trap. He dangles the so-called stolen money, sarcastically asking Julio if this is what he was looking for. Suddenly, a quest window pops up for everyone, exposing Julio as a scammer and offering 500 gold for his head. The scumbag starts sweating bullets as other players realize they've been had, forcing him to admit our boy is sharp. But before Julio can even finish his sentence, Hanbit cuts him off with a brutal right hook to the face. He follows up with a devastating kick, sending the trash-tier NPC flying across his own shop. The portly man tumbles across the floor, getting the beatdown he so richly deserved after all these years. Yunwoo just watches, completely dumbfounded, realizing he was played for a fool and wishing he could just re-roll his character. Just then, a city guard bursts in, shouting about the commotion, and Yunwoo thinks it's all over. But Hanbit isn't worried in the slightest. This is all part of the plan, as a system message announces the start of a cutscene. The cutscene shows the guards tying up the blubbering Julio, who's still pathetically claiming he's innocent. Hanbit and Yunwoo just watch as the trash-tier scammer is unceremoniously dragged away. And just like that, the portly man finds himself behind bars, exactly where he belongs. Our boy's eyes narrow as he thinks about how much easier this was compared to his past life. Back then, he had to fight through a whole platoon of corrupt guards just to get his hands on Julio. But now, as the cutscene ends, he can finally catch his breath. The game's system did all the heavy lifting. A quest-cleared window pops up, granting him 500 gold and a new objective at Atsubel's general store. Yunwoo, however, is connecting the dots, realizing this entire sequence was way too perfect to be a coincidence. He grabs Hanbit, completely dumbfounded, and starts demanding to know how he knew everything that was going to happen. Getting right in his face, Yunwoo smugly asks for an explanation, but our boy just looks tired of the whole situation. Our boy knows the truth is unbelievable, so he decides he's got to cook up a convincing lie, and fast. He plays it cool, claiming he's a huge fantasy novel geek, and this whole plot was ripped straight from an old book he read. And what do you know? Yunwoo completely buys it, calling him a total geek while Hanbit breathes a sigh of relief. Yunwoo is now all smiles, but Hanbit knows his partner is dangerously sharp. If Julio was innocent, he'd have been beaten into a pulp anyway. Yunwoo internally admits defeat, vowing to trust Hanbit from now on, and wondering if streaming is always this intense. Hanbit decides to leave all the talking and thinking to Yunwoo, resolving to just stick to what he's good at, fighting. As they walk, Yunwoo is still reeling, realizing the forums will explode now that a known NPC like Atsubel is linked to a criminal. Hanbit reflects on the consequences. Just like Julio, Atsubel's reputation is now permanently stained in the eyes of all players. He knows she's an important character, now unfairly branded as a petty criminal, and he can't help but feel a little guilty. To him, Atsubel was more than just an NPC, but she seems just as prickly as ever, telling some poor soul asking for work to get lost. He remembers her always telling him to stop standing around and get to work, calling him a freeloader. But she'd also get angry if he got hurt, scolding him for being careless with his own body. She even gave him a magic book, pushing him to become more than just a manual laborer. The memory then shifts to a darker time, when he found her locked away in a prison cell. Even then, she told him to look up and face her. She reassured him it wasn't his fault, and swore she'd make the rat-like bastard who framed them pay. But that promise was never fulfilled, as she ended up burning to death right after. For our boy, Atsubel was a precious yet agonizing memory he could never forget. Now, standing before her door in this new reality, he hesitates for a moment. Taking a breath, he finally pushes the door open to face the woman from his past. With a heavy heart, our boy calls out her name, finally facing the woman who was once his master. Atsubel, looking utterly bored, barely glances up from her desk. She finally gives him a proper look, unimpressed, and notes that he's a new face. With a hint of arrogance, she asks if he even knows who she is. Kang Hanbit just grins, explaining he's a newbie who came specifically to learn magic from her. She's dumbfounded by the request, questioning why she would ever teach him magic. Stepping closer, she challenges him, asking why she'd bother with a complete stranger. He already knows she'll refuse, but thanks to the earlier events in the chat, he has the perfect leverage. Suddenly, her expression shifts as a thought clicks into place. Her eyes widen in realization as she points a finger and asks if Hez the infamous Black Dragon. She puts two and two together, realizing Hez the infamous Black Dragon from the chat. Our boy confirms it, casually explaining that the scumbag Julio was trying to frame her as a thief. Atsubel just scoffs, calling Julio a piece of trash and admitting she always knew he'd be trouble. In a surprisingly gentle move, Kang Hanbit gives her a reassuring pat on the head. She thanks him sincerely, admitting that he saved her from a seriously ugly situation. He shakes her hand, saying it was no problem since he can't stand the guy either. The two immediately start bonding over their mutual hatred for Julio, agreeing he looks like a total scammer. Getting back to business, Atsubel remembers he was looking for a magic book, but then something clicks in her mind. A look of dawning realization crosses her face as she stares at him intently. But before she can speak, our boy flips the script, asking if she's the one who's actually looking for a cure. She's completely dumbfounded, asking how he knew, but our boy just points out the obvious. Her research is all over the desk. Seeing her hesitate, he cuts right to the chase and offers to help her out. But Atsubel isn't buying it that easily. She clenches her jaw, her trust clearly worn thin. She challenges him, asking if he actually knows anything about medicine, and he just smirks, saying he knows plenty. Deciding to test the fraud, she asks for the name of a very specific disease, one that causes blue pupils, dizziness, and vomiting. Kang Hanbit gives her a deadpan stare and admits he doesn't know the name of the disease, causing her face to just drop. She turns away, completely dejected, muttering about how many times she's been fooled by so-called experts. It's a painful memory for her, being surrounded by scammers who took her money for nothing but bogus diagnoses. She's been through this vicious cycle of hope and despair so many times that she's almost given up. But then he hits her with a bombshell, adding that potions don't work and the patient loses their appetite, leaving her utterly speechless. Her hands tremble as she asks with a sliver of hope if he truly knows what this mysterious illness is. He grabs her, cutting straight to the point. The disease has no name, but he knows exactly how to cure it, leaving her dumbfounded. Overcome with emotion, Atsubel begs him for help, promising she'll make it worth his while. Our boy just gives her a confident smirk, assuring her that he will definitely get the medicine she needs. Suddenly, a quest window pops up, revealing Atsubel's secret struggle and offering an insane reward, an epic-grade spellbook. Ju Yeonwoo and the others are absolutely losing their minds. A guaranteed epic reward is just unheard of in this game. Playing the part of a total newbie, Kang Hanbit asks what an epic even is, making Ju Yeonwoo facepalm. Ju Yun-woo explains the basics of the game's loot system. Rank is the item's level, while grade is its rarity. He breaks down the tiers from common all the way to mythic, while another player gawks at the idea of a guaranteed epic drop. Kang Hanbit internally notes this rarity system is a game-only feature, then asks how he's supposed to get the cure. Our boy smirks, thinking he'll just have to see for himself how good an epic item is, before asking where he needs to go. Ju Yunwoo, still reeling from the quest reveal, starts to point the way, but mid-sentence he suddenly seizes up, clutching his chest like he's having a heart attack. Kang Hanbit rushes over, totally confused and asking his friend if he's sick. It's not a health issue. Ju Yunwoo starts glitching out like a bad connection, stammering something about his mom. And then, poof, he vanishes in a flash of light, leaving our boy completely alone and dumbfounded. A system message pops up, showing a chaotic log that looks suspiciously like a forced logout. Turns out, that's exactly what happened. Back in the real world, Ju Yunwoo is sweating, trying to tell his mom he's busy. His mom is having none of it, giving him a look that could curdle milk. She bursts into the room and starts wailing on him, demanding to know why he locked his door for the first time in his life. He desperately explains the VR gear, saying it was a discharge gift from his friend and he was just trying it out. He tries to smooth things over, mentioning his friend just wanted to play together now that he's out of the military. His mom seems to recognize the device from the news and just warns him not to play for too long. Thinking he's in the clear, he promises to play casually since his internship starts tomorrow anyway. But that was the wrong thing to say. His mom is completely blindsided by the news of an internship. She immediately starts smacking him, absolutely furious that he'd make such a big decision without telling her. He reflexively throws up a hand to defend himself, wondering why on earth this is happening. To his own surprise, he actually manages to block her slap, looking pretty proud of himself for a second. His victory is short-lived as she smacks him with her other hand, yelling that he can't block everything. As she lectures him for rushing into a job, he realizes this is way harder than fighting his old martial arts master. Still reeling from the slap, our boy Ju Yunwoo tries to reason with his mom, explaining he needs a job for his graduating semester. Her anger finally subsides, replaced by a stern look as she reminds him the commute to Songdo will be brutal. The lecture shifts gears. Now she's nagging him for skipping breakfast, saying she totally noticed. He makes the trash-tier excuse that a friend bought him a parfait, which only reignites her fury. Having had enough, he bolts for his room to finally play his game, collapsing onto his bed absolutely drained. He glances at the clock, realizing he was in the middle of a stream, but decides his first day as an intern is more important. Meanwhile, the stream he just ditched is pure chaos, with Kang Hanbit having a full-blown meltdown on camera. Ju Yunwoo just sighs, completely unaware of the drama and still thinking about how intense his mom can be. He reaffirms his decision to sleep, feeling a little bad for ditching the streamer, but knowing real life comes first. And back in the game, Kang Hanbit is still screaming his head off as the chat goes wild, utterly abandoned by his senior. Meanwhile, on the game's largest role-playing forum, a post about an epic quest and hidden skill is blowing up. The post details how some edgy newbie got a guaranteed epic quest and a hidden fire spell, with a screenshot as proof. Elsewhere, a Game Workshop employee named Jae-ha Kim scoffs at the post, thinking it's complete nonsense. He dismisses it as just another day at the office, annoyed by the fuss over a single hidden quest. Jae-ha figures it's just some cheap viral marketing from a small-time streamer he's never even heard of. Kicking his feet up, he decides to search for this loafer and his supposed partner, Black Dragon. He can already tell from the nickname that Black Dragon must be some cringy brat, but something seems off. His smug expression fades as he processes the information, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. Deciding he can't just ignore it, he resolves to check out the stream for himself to see what the big deal is. And this is Loafer, the streamer in question who looks like an absolute dork. Our boy Loafer is getting absolutely swarmed by his chat, trying desperately to calm everyone down. He nervously explains that his partner, Black Dragon, is an adult who's even served in the military with him. But then, he notices his viewer count suddenly skyrocketing into the stratosphere. He's completely dumbfounded, wondering why so many people are flooding his stream all at once. A quick glance at the chat reveals the truth. A post about them blew up on a major RPG forum. Just as he's processing this, a message from Black Dragon pops up, saying he has to log off for his first day of work tomorrow. Loafer is left utterly speechless, abandoned at the most critical moment of his streaming career. But a second message appears. Black Dragon has left him a parting gift, a hint for the viewers. Holding the mysterious message, Loafer turns back to his audience, a plan forming in his head. He puts on a smug grin, teasing the hyped-up crowd about the gift his bro left behind. The message from Black Dragon lays out the secret. The cure for Atsubel's quest is hidden within bomb slimes. Meanwhile, in the real world, a new day begins in the city. Our boy Kang Hanbit, looking sharp in a suit, checks his phone to confirm the address for his new job. He takes a deep breath, psyching himself up for a fresh start as he stares up at the massive office building. Walking in, he nervously introduces himself as the new hire at Ankway Technology. His timing couldn't be worse, as he walks right into a senior employee's tirade about some botched lab revisions. The angry senior finally notices him and stops mid-rant, dumbfounded by the newcomer. He immediately starts complaining about HR, questioning why he wasn't told an intern was starting today. With a dismissive click of his tongue, it's clear he sees our boy as just another problem. He then orders another employee, Minho Lee, to take the intern to the conference room, wanting him out of his hair. Minho Lee formally introduces himself, telling our boy to just ask if he needs anything. He tells Kang Hanbit to follow him, saying they'll sort out his desk and contract paperwork later. Once in the conference room, Minho gives him his first task: just clear the whiteboard. Without a word, our boy gets to work, erasing the scribbles from the board. Suddenly, another man walks in, wondering why it's just the two of them in the room. The newcomer sips his coffee and bluntly asks Kang Hanbit who the hell he is. Minho quickly explains to the team leader that this is the intern he reported on a few days ago. Our boy gives a deep, respectful bow, promising to work his hardest during the internship. But the team leader just scoffs, telling him not to work hard, but to simply do what he's told. With a cold look, he dismisses Kang Hanbit, telling him to leave as soon as he's finished tidying up. Kang Hanbit leaves the room, his first day already feeling like a total bust. He sighs, thinking this company is going nowhere, but decides it's still better than dying over and over again. Later that day, he logs into the game, telling his friend that his first day at work was an absolute mess. His buddy, Loafer, pops up with a sparkly over-the-top pose, leaving our boy utterly dumbfounded. While Loafer asks what's wrong with his look, Kang Hanbit feels like his eyes are about to rot. Suddenly, Loafer shoves a status screen in his face, yelling that they've hit the jackpot with over 5,000 viewers. He throws an arm around Kang Hanbit, announcing to the stream that they're finally starting the infamous Atsubel quest. Loafer then cheerfully confirms to the chat that, so far, not a single person has managed to clear it. Our boy just smirks, thinking everyone else is just trashed here and lacks imagination. Taking the lead, he tells the stream to follow him, declaring hell, show them how it's done as he heads for the main gate. Loafer walks alongside him, totally suspicious, and asking if he's really a newbie, but our boy just plays it off, saying he's read a lot of fantasy novels. He just shrugs, claiming he figured anything was possible in a game with this much freedom, a perfect cover for his past life's knowledge. Suddenly, a commotion breaks out nearby as other players argue, with one yelling that they can't trust him, catching Kang Hanbit's attention. As they push through the crowd, our boy wonders what's going on, and Loafer figures everyone must have seen their post on the community site. Loafer suddenly points out that the Vanguard is here, leaving Kang Hanbit completely clueless about what that even means. Just then, a party of absolute top-tier players parts the crowd like the Red Sea, each one decked out in insane gear. Loafer whispers that it's really them, realizing the news of their impossible quest has spread way further than they ever expected. Our boy, still lost, asks again what a Vanguard is, and Loafer finally remembers his friend is supposed to be a total noob. Turns out, the top 10,000 ranked players in the entire game are given the prestigious title of the Vanguard. Loafer explains that the rankings are determined by everything from levels and proficiency to story progression, meaning these guys are the real deal. Loafer adds that out of 300 million players, only 500 of Korea's finest are part of the Vanguard. Our boy asks if they've even learned magic, but Loafer explains most just wear mage gear for the aesthetic, focusing solely on proficiency. Suddenly, Kang Hanbit's eyes lock onto a hooded figure, recognizing the glowing bow on his back. He remembers it clearly, the Golden Bird bow, a piece crafted by someone whose skills he considered merely decent. This makes him wonder if even these so-called elites couldn't clear the Artspell quest, but Loafer drops another bomb. Most are corporate-sponsored. These players get full corporate backing to clear content, because role-playing is still a massive cash cow in this world. Just then, someone taps our boy on the shoulder, trying to get his attention. A female player recognizes him as Black Dragon and demands to know when he's going to stream the quest clear. Before he can properly answer, her party member shouts that it's all a lie, but she tells him to shut up and at least try to believe. The guy calls her an idiot for falling for scammers before, and she responds with a swift, angry slap across his face. Ignoring the bickering, our boy declares they're heading to the sea, leaving Loafer dumbfounded since the quest objective is in the opposite direction. Kang Hanbit explains with a smirk that to make the medicine, they first need a fishing rod. Loafer is completely lost. He can't figure out why they're suddenly diving into life skill content when the hint was about bomb slimes. Instantly, a donation pops up on the stream, revealing that profiteers are already manipulating fish prices based on this new info. Kang Hanbit just scoffs, thinking these people are fools for not grasping the real hint behind his words. Still trying to make sense of it, Loafer asks if the ingredients are actually found in the sea, but our boy just gives a vague, troll-like answer, which only makes Loafer more anxious. Loafer absolutely snaps, grabbing his leg and threatening to shut down the stream if this is all some elaborate prank. Kang Hanbit calmly tells him to trust the process, but then casually asks to borrow 10,000 gold. The sudden request for cash leaves Loafer completely speechless, his brain short-circuiting from the whiplash. Thanks to our boy's hint, the whole area is now swarming with players, all buzzing about the next big thing. Looking over the crowd, Kang Hanbit notes that even more people have shown up, drawn in by the hype. He tries to calm Loafer down, promising to pay back the gold, but Loafer is just baffled by his plan to go fishing without a rod. Suddenly, Kang Hanbit spots his target, a lone fisherman NPC named Eldrock, who the stream chat knows is supposedly hard of hearing. Our boy wastes no time, walking right up to the old man and greeting him with a sly grin. He immediately offers to buy the fishing rod, but Eldrock plays dumb, pretending he misheard the request. Dropping the polite act, Kang Hanbit leans in and offers 50,000 gold, knowing full well the old man's hearing is perfectly fine. The old man goes silent for a beat, his facade finally cracking under the massive offer. With a sharp glare, Eldrock rejects the gold and counters with a cryptic 10, leaving the stream chat completely lost. But Kang Hanbit just smiles, realizing the old man hasn't changed one bit, and counters with 6, engaging in a secret negotiation only he understands. Kang Hanbit counters with 5, which sends Eldrock into a rage, but our boy just smiles, fondly remembering how the old man used to curse at him just like this. Grumbling about how sly kids are these days, the old fisherman finally gives in and tells him to do whatever he wants. Our boy celebrates securing the fishing rod while Eldrock screams at him to get lost, leaving the stream chat thinking he just extorted a poor old man. Back in the stream chat, Loafer comments that Kang Hanbit seems to have a real talent for this whole streaming thing. He explains that anyone who plans to clear the bomb slime field with a fishing rod clearly has the makings of a professional clown. Loafer then suggests they try some role-playing, but our boy has no idea what that is and bluntly refuses, much to the chat's amusement. To explain the danger to a newbie in the chat, Loafer points out that bomb slimes are extremely sensitive. He shows how they instantly explode if you so much as touch them, completely wiping out anyone nearby. Even trying to attack them from a safe distance by throwing a rock is a trash-tier strategy, because no matter what you do, the slimes will just detonate, taking you with them. Loafer continues, explaining that even accidentally bumping into these slimes is a death sentence. They just instantly detonate, leaving you with nothing but a respawn timer. To top it off, they don't drop any loot, making them the most trash-tier mobs imaginable. So how is our boy going to use a fishing rod? Meanwhile, Kang Hanbit ignores the chatter and finds the perfect spot, noting the elevation is just right for his plan. He gets a feel for the fishing rod, realizing its in-game sensitivity is way off from a real one and needs some adjustment. The field is littered with these wobbly green landmines, just waiting for a reason to go boom. Just as he's about to start, Loafer nervously calls out to him. He points to his chat window, warning Kang Hanbit that he thinks someone is following them. But our boy isn't surprised in the slightest. He already knew. He calmly confirms Loafer's fears, revealing he's been aware of their stalkers ever since they left the city. He then drops another bomb on Loafer. It's not just one team, but several different groups watching their every move. Completely unfazed, our boy calmly asks his buddy to pull up the screen settings window. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he apologizes in advance to their unseen audience. He declares it's time for a little technical adjustment, planning to mess with them a bit. A confused Loafer hands over the glowing blue settings panel, having no idea what's about to happen. Kang Hanbit takes it, that smug look still plastered on his face. He confirms his plan to mess with their stalkers, ready to put on a show. The scene then flashes back to Ju Yunwoo's real life, showing he's been a die-hard fantasy nerd for as long as he can remember. But back in the military, he was an outcast, with none of the other soldiers sharing his hobbies. His only escape from the crushing boredom was reading his favorite book, Monster Tamer, until it was practically falling apart. That is, until a certain new recruit showed up and changed everything. Desperate for a kindred spirit, Ju Yunwoo asks the rookie if he knows his favorite novel. The new guy, Kang Hanbit, casually confirms he's read it and points to a specific obscure passage. Ju Yunwoo is dumbfounded. This rookie was pointing out details he'd missed after reading the book dozens of times. He starts to realize this new kid is on a completely different level. It felt like Kang Hanbit had actually been to that world himself, leaving Ju Yunwoo utterly starstruck. So after being discharged, seeing an ad for a hyper-realistic VR game sealed the deal for him. He just knew that teaming up with Kang Hanbit in a world like this was destined to be legendary. Back in the present, Loafer confirms with our boy that only his screen is being broadcast to their audience. Kang Hanbit tells him to just act natural and pretend they're focused on the slimes below, setting the stage for their trap. Loafer plays the part of the happy-go-lucky streamer, trying to keep the audience engaged while our boy is supposedly fixing the screen. But Kang Hanbit knows the viewers are getting frustrated, and more importantly, so are the other players lurking nearby. He understands their anxiety. Every second they waste is a chance for a competitor to get ahead. This tense standoff between all the hidden groups can't possibly last much longer, and just as he predicted, the rustling in the bushes signals that someone's patience has finally snapped. A party of impatient players emerges from the woods, thinking they've found the perfect moment to strike. With a snap of his fingers, Kang Hanbit brings the stream's camera back online, greeting his audience with a smirk. He grabs the fishing rod, his true intentions finally coming into focus. With a powerful swing, he casts the line not towards the water, but towards his enemies. Turns out, there was a very specific reason he bought this particular fishing rod from that old man Eldrock. The hook is so incredibly sharp that it latches onto the volatile bomb slimes without triggering them. But the real kicker is a hidden button on the reel that our boy presses with a grin. With a click, vicious spikes shoot out from the hook, securing the living bomb in place. This gives him perfect control, allowing him to detonate the slime at the exact moment he chooses. And the chain reaction from that first explosion is the real masterstroke of his plan. The blast launches all the nearby bomb slimes high into the air like a volley of mortars. The impatient players who charged in are left completely dumbfounded, staring up at the sky. Their leader realizes their fatal mistake and screams for everyone to pull back immediately. But as he turns to flee, a sound from the bushes makes him freeze in his tracks. It's too late. The sky rains down living explosives, and the ambushers find themselves in a kill zone, running for their lives. The leader of the ambush party can only watch in horror as the world turns white. When the dust settles, our boy stands completely unscathed, with a dumbfounded Loafer staring at the carnage. Hanbit just smirks, coolly telling his stream that he's taken care of the trash-tier stream snipers. He then readies his rod again, announcing it's time to get down to business, leaving his viewers confused. But from behind a rock, a strange, golden-colored slime slowly peeks out. With a flick of his wrist, Hanbit hooks the special slime with pinpoint accuracy. He easily reels it in and scoops it up into a small bag. Holding up his prize, he proudly announces he's gathered the material, as his chat explodes with questions about why it didn't detonate. Turns out, this is a hidden mechanic. Wiping out a mob of bomb slimes has a chance to spawn a harmless dud slime. Loafer asks if everyone can clear the quest this way, and Hanbit confirms that's exactly why he's showing them how it's done. With the dud slime secured, Hanbit lets out a wicked grin, thinking the next part of the plan won't be so easy as he sets his sights on Atsubel. Elsewhere, one of the stream snipers who barely escaped is panting for his life. Turns out, has Kim Jae-ha, an employee for a small-time gold farm, and has just thankful he didn't get wiped out completely. Catching his breath, he can't stop thinking about that player, Black Dragon, realizing he's no ordinary newbie. In his mind, Hanbit must be a big player, some top-tier pro backed by a massive corporation. Jae-ha is completely dumbfounded as to why a whale like that would ever team up with a small-time streamer. He even speculates that maybe Hanbit is just a distraction, drawing attention away from whatever the powerful Vanguard Guild found. Shaking his head, he decides to forget about it and just focus on finishing his own Atsubel quest. If he can just clear this one quest, he'll finally hit his performance quota for the month. But the narrator chimes in with a grim reality. Kim Jae-ha did not succeed. The reason for his failure flashes before our eyes. The NPC Atsubel, grabbing her throat in disgust, demands to know what Hanbit brought her. She recoils from a plate of what looks like pure poison, screaming at him for trying to pass it off as medicine. Hanbit and Loafer just watch from the side, with our boy innocently asking if it's really that bad. Completely fed up, Atsubel just sighs in defeat, running a hand through her hair. She turns her back on him, saying she'll just pay him off for the trouble with Julio if he agrees to leave her alone. But Hanbit calmly probes deeper, suggesting that maybe she isn't as desperate as she seems. His words hit a nerve, and Atsubel whips around, absolutely seething with rage. She snarls at him, saying he has no right to talk when he knows absolutely nothing about her situation. Before she can finish her tirade, Hanbit suddenly shoves a spoonful of the disgusting concoction right into her mouth. Caught completely off guard, she has no choice but to gulp down the mysterious medicine. The deed is done, and Loafer can only watch in abject horror as our boy forces the spoon into her mouth. Loafer is completely dumbfounded, thinking Hanbit is a genuine piece of trash for pulling a move like this. Atsubel clutches her throat in disbelief, realizing she was just force-fed that disgusting slop. The taste is so vile she can't hold it back, gagging as the medicine works its magic. She sprints out of the room to throw up, with Hanbit coolly noting the immediate effects of his cure. A moment later, she bursts back in, grabbing our boy by the collar and demanding to know what he's done. But mid-scream, she stops dead, realizing something strange. A seed-like object came out when she was sick. Hanbit just smirks, revealing that the seed was the actual cause of her illness all along. His plan worked like a charm, even if Loafer is still just processing the fact that she's throwing up. Livid, Atsubel tightens her grip, screaming at him for what he just put her through. She calls him a freak, but Hanbit's smirk doesn't waver for a second. He calmly confirms that the seed she just coughed up was the entire problem. In fact, he reveals it's the real reason both she and her mom have been so sick, leaving her utterly speechless. Our boy then drops another bomb, saying he knew she was sick the moment he laid eyes on her. Turns out, she's been suffering in silence, terrified of worrying her mother. She also hid it to avoid being exploited by scumbags like Julio, who would use her weakness against her. Dumbfounded, she asks how he could possibly know, and Hanbit admits he can't even call her foolish for hiding it. He explains it was a parasitic seed from the far south, latching onto her stomach lining and growing inside. She likely got it from some imported ingredients, and the only cure is the mucus from a bomb slime. That's why they needed a dud slime, one that had lost its ability to explode, making the cure possible. He continues explaining that without the explosive part, the mucus is just a powerful emetic that forces you to vomit. Atsubel listens, a glimmer of hope in her eyes as she realizes this wasn't some incurable disease after all. The plan is simple. Once she throws up the seed, the source of her sickness will be gone for good. All she has to do is get it out of her system, and she'll be completely fine without any other medicine. Hanbit hands her the cure, gently telling her to go take care of her mother as well. As she takes it, our boy has a flashback, realizing that even in this game, the NPC Atsubel is just like the real one he knew. He remembers her clear as day, thinking to himself that she hasn't changed one bit. She was always a foolish girl, worrying more about others' suffering than her own, even when he was the one in a sling. Despite her rough way of talking, she always had his back, fiercely protective, even if it came out as yelling. Snapping back to the present, he looks at her with a genuine smile, sincerely hoping she finds happiness in this life. A cutscene triggers, showing Atsubel at her mother's bedside, medicine in hand. She gently prepares a spoonful of the cure Hanbit gave her. With a steady hand, she helps her ailing mother take the medicine. Atsubel watches with bated breath, desperately hoping this will finally work. Her eyes widen in shock and relief as she sees the cure taking effect. Back in the present, she excitedly tells the guys her mom coughed up a ton of weird seeds and is now fine. With a chilling smile, she cracks her knuckles, vowing to get revenge on the quack doctors who scammed her. Hanbit just watches her, thinking to himself that it's been far too long since he's seen her smile. Overcome with emotion, Atsubel turns to him, trying to express her gratitude as other players start fawning over her. Our boy and Ju Yunwoo are completely dumbfounded by the peanut gallery, wondering what on earth they even did to deserve this praise. Atsubel declares that since they saved both her and her mother, she owes them everything. She turns around, a determined look on her face, saying it's only right that she rewards him properly. With a flourish, she presents a gorgeous spellbook, telling Hanbit it's the very one he's been searching for. Our boy takes the book, but she insists that she's the one who should be thanking him. Ju Yunwoo immediately loses his mind, begging to touch the rare item, but Hanbit smugly tells him to get lost. Just as they're about to leave, Atsubel stops them with a blindingly cheerful smile, saying she's not done yet. She then hefts out an enormous sack of gold, leaving both of them completely speechless. Ju Yunwoo can't help but notice that this reward is way bigger than what the quest originally offered. Suddenly, a system window pops up right in Hanbit's face, announcing a first clear reward, leaving him dumbfounded. Turns out, he triggered a special condition, and the system adjusts the payout to the max, doubling his gold on the spot. On top of the gold, the system throws in a couple of bonus stat points for his trouble. He also gets a nice chunk of 200 EXP, pushing him even further. But the real kicker is a sudden jump of 5 whole levels and another 5 stat points. Then, the spellbook in his hands erupts in a golden light as its grade skyrockets from heroic to unique. Our boy is completely baffled, a greedy little smile creeping onto his face as he stares at the treasure. All he wanted was to help Atsubel, but seeing that first clear message sparked a whole new idea in his head. Ju Yunwoo is just as stunned, his jaw on the floor as he watches the item transform. Hanbit's mind races with a single, powerful thought. Could this be the key to fixing his broken world? He just laughs nervously, admitting he had no idea a bonus like this even existed. The two of them are left speechless on the floor, with Ju Yunwoo stammering about the impossible unique reward. Ju Yunwoo snaps out of it and nudges our boy, telling him to say something to the viewers, but Hanbit is still completely zoned out. Meanwhile, his stream chat is going absolutely ballistic, and Yunwoo frantically tries to calm them down, swearing they had no idea this would happen. He can't even read the messages as they fly by, but he can tell from the chaos that his viewers are losing their minds. Just then, Atsubel walks up to the dazed Hanbit and tells him she has something else for him. Hanbit's eyes widen in disbelief, wondering if there's seriously even more loot after scoring a unique grade item. Another system window pops up, granting him the Atsubel's first rescuer achievement, another stat point, and a letter of introduction. He unfurls the letter, which contains some cryptic text about a hidden treasure for those with a good heart. Atsubel leans in and clarifies that it's just a letter of introduction to the blacksmith, telling him to go there for a proper weapon. She bluntly points out their gear is trashed here and ruined from the slime fight, and the two can only laugh awkwardly at how bad they smell. Atsubel insists the rotten smell is from the bomb slimes, but Hanbit just deadpans that she's the one who fed him the smelly things. With a smile, she thanks them one last time and offers her help anytime, which sends Yunwoo's stream chat into an absolute meltdown. Our boy just calmly accepts her offer, taking the whole unbelievable situation in stride. Now outside, Hanbit asks what's next, and Yunwoo explains that since this is an open-world game, they're free to go wherever they want. He pulls up a map, showing that while everyone starts in the port city of Edlin, the rest of the world is completely open from the get-go. Yunwoo warns him to be careful though, as wandering into a high-level zone by accident has gotten countless players permanently stuck. Changing the subject, Yunwoo asks why Hanbit didn't customize his character, but our boy knows he can't exactly explain he was forced by a goddess. Yunwoo just starts bragging that he spent 5 hours sculpting his own avatar to be a more luxurious version of his real self. He even points out that you can change your gender, so you can never be sure who's really behind the avatar. The reality of the open world hits Hanbit. He has to figure out his own path from scratch and wonders where to even begin. Just as he's lost in thought, a sudden notification sound snaps him out of it. Turns out, a viewer just dropped a massive 50,000 won donation on Yunwoo's stream, demanding more angry Atsubel content. Yunwoo absolutely loses his mind, screaming his thanks for the donation while Hanbit just stares, dumbfounded. A light bulb goes off for our boy as he realizes that since they're in a party, he gets half of that cash. The first donation is just the beginning, as a flood of cash starts pouring in from viewers who are loving the stream. Another viewer drops a staggering 100,000 won, and Yunwoo's eyes practically turn into dollar signs. He shoves a screen in Hanbit's face, excitedly explaining that the viewer count is exploding, hitting over 8,000 people. The stream chat is going wild, with old fans lamenting that their hidden gem has blown up for the world to see. Our boy is completely stunned that a single quest managed to pull in over 8,000 viewers just like that. Yunwoo, on the other hand, is in full-blown streamer mode, shamelessly thanking everyone for the cash and promising special reactions. Hanbit quickly does the math, realizing his cut of the 500,000 won in donations is a staggering 250,000. To celebrate, Yunwoo starts doing some god-awful dance, and the chat immediately starts flaming him for how cringe it is. A powerful realization hits Hanbit as he stares at his hands. This game could be his path to making some serious money. He clenches his fist with newfound determination, thinking this is his chance to finally repay his mother for everything. His mind flashes back to when the goddess showed him a glimpse of Earth, revealing a missing persons report with his own face on it. He remembers the vision of his mother, who had completely given up her own life just to search for him, and he vows to make her happy. Back in the present, Yunwoo snaps him out of it, telling him to use the spellbook they just got because the whole stream is waiting. With the stream watching, Hanbit places his hand on the spellbook, and it immediately begins to glow. A torrent of red data envelops him as the system processes the skill acquisition. He's officially learned Fireball, a unique grade magic attack that boasts a pitifully fiery explosion. Our boy can't help but feel this is anticlimactic. It's like cheating compared to the hell he endured to learn magic in his past life. Yunwoo is buzzing with excitement, asking if he felt the knowledge just flow into his brain, but Hanbit just stares back, saying he felt absolutely nothing. The two of them are left completely dumbfounded, wondering what the hell just happened. Yunwoo awkwardly laughs it off as a bit of lag, but Hanbit is certain he acquired the skill, making the whole situation even weirder. Suddenly, a shocking thought crosses his mind. What if the game is simply reflecting the skills he already mastered in that other world? He remembers the goddess, finally understanding what she meant by him being an existing character. His past life's abilities are bleeding into the game. Yunwoo is practically vibrating with excitement, hyping him up for the viewers, but Hanbit just tells him to calm down. Eager to see some action, Yunwoo points to a nearby boulder, suggesting it as the perfect target practice. Hanbit closes his eyes, focusing his thoughts into his hand just like he was brutally trained to do in his past life. He takes a deep breath, gathering the mana, ready to test his theory once and for all. With a yell, he unleashes the spell, but what erupts from his hand isn't some trash-tier spark, it's a raging inferno. He hurls the massive fireball, which screams through the air with terrifying power. The swirling vortex of flame collides with the rock in a blinding flash. A massive explosion utterly decimates the boulder and a good chunk of the surrounding landscape. Both our boy and Yanwu are left completely dumbfounded, staring at the smoking crater where the rock used to be. Yanwu is absolutely losing his mind over the display of power, and our boy Hanbit just smirks, soaking in the praise. He thinks to himself that this rank 1 power is even more insane than he could have ever imagined. But just as he's enjoying the moment, a strange, dark energy begins to swirl around him, catching him completely off guard. Suddenly, he's dragged into a dark void, as a system message declares a new effect for his recorder of 55 times title has been unlocked. Floating in the abyss, he looks up at a massive, unseen presence, completely dumbfounded. A shadowy hand swats him through the void, sending him crashing back to reality, where he lands hard on the ground. A notification explains his new title. His proficiency with old skills will now skyrocket, and a new keyword, Spirit, is available. The realization hits him, and his face twists not with joy, but with pure, unadulterated rage. He clutches his leg, cursing that damn goddess for shackling him with these traumatic powers once again. Despite his inner turmoil, our boy calmly confirms the rules for the archery test with the instructor. Another player warns him to invest in agility, but Hanbit coolly tells him he'll be fine. He pulls an arrow, his movements fluid and practiced from a lifetime of combat. As he draws the bow, his focus is absolute, channeling decades of experience into this one moment. The memory of his new title flashes in his mind, reminding him of the curse that grants him this power. The phantom pain in his leg returns with the memory, along with a fresh surge of hatred for the goddess. He takes a deep breath, a small orb of spirit energy condensing before him from his sheer willpower. The horrifying realization hits him. The goddess is still watching, treating his suffering as entertainment. With a surge of fury, he lets the arrow fly, pouring all his rage and trauma into the shot. It strikes the bullseye dead center, leaving the other player absolutely speechless. Our boy just shrugs it off, telling the other player he's got the hang of things now. The blonde player is still completely flustered, telling Hanbit to knock himself out. He then throws a fit, threatening to withhold all quest info, forcing Hanbit to try and calm him down. Suddenly, a massive donation from a viewer pops up, showering our boy in digital cash. Both of them are left completely dumbfounded by the sudden influx of money. The other player's attitude does a complete 180, bowing and saying Hanbit didn't need to do that for his little broadcast tantrum. Hanbit smirks, realizing his anger has magically vanished, and wonders if he's always been this crazy for cash. When his viewers ask where he's headed next, a system window conveniently appears before him. He gives the camera a sly look, confirming that he has a very specific place in mind. His destination is a traditional wooden building, a place that seems to trigger a memory. The other player is confused, asking why our boy is ditching the main story, but Hanbit just remarks that it's been a while. He clarifies that the main quest can wait. His first priority is picking up some new skills. With that, he pushes open the heavy wooden door, stepping into the training hall he remembers. Inside, they find a burly man with his back to them, completely absorbed in his work. The whole place is decked out with creepy hunting trophies, giving off some seriously unsettling vibes. His companion is visibly freaked out, shivering as he complains about how creepy the building always is. The man, identified by the system as Hunter Lickner, the archery NPC, finally turns around, cleaver in hand, and asks if they're customers. Hanbit, completely unfazed, cheerfully announces Hez here to learn archery, while the other guy looks like Hez about to faint. The instructor seems skeptical, slamming his cleaver down into a massive slab of meat with a menacing thud. This reminds Hanbit of the player's earlier tantrum about his filthy natural talent, and he can't help but smirk, thinking he never expected this either. He smirks, remembering that true proficiency, honed over countless lives, is what really matters, not some unique grade gear. Hanbit then turns to the other player and bluntly tells him he's got the wrong idea. What he's doing isn't even magic. Our boy goes into full lecture mode, explaining that the problem isn't just the grimoire, it's something more fundamental. He declares that magic is basically math, requiring precise calculations, which leaves the other guy shivering at his over-immersion. This god-tier confidence comes from moments like when he scored an impossible 287 points, using nothing but level 2 RP gear. Elsewhere in the city, the scene shifts to a rooftop overlooking the streets. A rogue is flipping coins, sighing about how utterly boring her day is and wishing for some excitement. She scoffs, complaining that taking down these small fry players is pathetically easy. But just as she's about to nod off, her senses suddenly perk up. Two figures appear in a nearby doorway, and it looks like her wish for some fun might just be granted. The rogue smirks, wondering what kind of fools just wandered into her line of sight. Back with our crew, Kang Hanbit explains that magic is just a convenience, not his main skill, leaving the other player dumbfounded. He then gets the guy's attention to ask a very pointed question. He wonders if the player is a complete noob who just created his character yesterday. The player is absolutely fuming, thinking our boy is just an edgy tryhard for refusing a unique grade weapon. This disrespect finally makes Kang Hanbit snap, grabbing the guy and screaming about what they know about magic. Suddenly, a hulking instructor appears, asking if he has any grit, and Hanbit recognizes his old grit master. Our boy confidently declares he has plenty of both grit and skill, but the instructor is unimpressed. A quest to learn archery pops up, and he's immediately transported to a range to prove his worth. Afterward, he looks completely drained, but tells his worried companion to just forget about it. Kang Hanbit just scoffs, thinking there's no point explaining his complex past to these noobs. The other player, still worried, explains that Hanbit's high-grade spell must have taken a huge toll, and asks to see a normal one for comparison. Hanbit is just curious to see the baseline skill level, so he agrees, and the player reluctantly accepts, telling him not to laugh. After taking a deep breath, the player lets his arrow fly, hoping for the best, but his shot is absolutely pathetic, barely even sticking to the outer edge of the target. The player is completely dumbfounded by his own trash-tier performance. He can only stare at the result, thinking how crazy bad that was. Then it's our boy's turn, and he draws the bow with the focus of a seasoned grandmaster. His first few shots are perfect bullseyes, and the other player can only watch in disbelief as the scores rack up. Hanbit then unleashes a storm of arrows, landing all 26 remaining shots dead center, proving he's on another level entirely. His final arrow doesn't just hit the bullseye, it completely obliterates the center of the target. The sheer force of the impact tears straight through the wood, proving his mastery is on another plane of existence. With a perfect 1-0 point hit, Hanbit has achieved a flawless score, leaving the other player utterly dumbfounded. Now it's his friend's turn, and Lopia clenches his fist, ready to show off his own unique talent. He channels his energy, grinning like a madman as he unleashes his ultimate move, a fireball spell. But the grand spell turns out to be a pathetic little flame that just poofs onto Hanbit's shoulder, doing absolutely nothing. Lopia is so embarrassed he wishes Hanbit would just yell at him, but our boy dryly notes that the spell is a bit small. Despite the trash tier result, a system window pops up. Lopia has somehow obtained a unique grade rank D fire grimoire. Has absolutely ecstatic, clutching his new book and prize money like they're the most precious things in the world. Hanbit gives him a deadpan stare, asking if he's a little too excited, but Lopia is too busy celebrating to care. Lopia is blown away by Hanbit's skills, asking if he was some kind of archery prodigy, but our boy just scoffs internally. With his eyes turning into literal dollar signs, Lopia realizes that with Hanbit's skills, they're about to be filthy rich. Hanbit coolly explains that he bet on himself, since no one in their right mind would think he was an archer, completely flipping the odds. As they walk off, Lopia is buzzing with excitement, suggesting they should cause this kind of chaos more often, but Hanbit seems preoccupied. Still riding the high, Lopia eagerly asks what their next grand adventure is. Hanbit calmly lays out his plan. He's going to learn swordsmanship, and the first step is to acquire the swiftness skill. His friend is completely dumbfounded, having never even heard of a skill like that and wondering if it's some kind of joke. Lopia grabs him, protesting that swiftness is a famously useless skill, but Hanbit just brushes him off and starts walking. Annoyed but unwilling to be left behind, Lopia scrambles to catch up, yelling for his bro to wait for him. They arrive at their destination, where Hanbit explains the NPC who teaches the skill is named Rhea, and there's a damn good reason everyone avoids her. Turns out, Rhea's quest difficulty is absurdly high for a trash-tier skill like swiftness, making it a total ripoff. Lopia, sweating bullets, asks our boy if he's seriously going through with this madness, but Hanbit doesn't even flinch. Without a word, he walks right up to the bored-looking rogue, ready to get this over with. Hanbit gets straight to the point, telling her he's here to learn the skill she's famous for. She sizes him up, admitting his spirit isn't bad, but her condescending tone says she's not impressed. Suddenly, she tosses a heavy bag of gold onto the ground, initiating her little test. In a flash, she snatches the bag back, moving with incredible speed as a demonstration of her power. Now, holding the prize, she gets a smug look on her face, clearly enjoying the thought of another player failing her challenge. She then drops the bomb. The teaching fee is a gift of 5,000 gold, an insane price for any beginner. Rhea expects him to freak out, but Hanbit is completely unfazed, simply telling her to start the lesson already. Our boy just smirks, thinking that after 55 regressions of her stealing from him, 5,000 gold is a bargain. Ria is completely dumbfounded by his reaction, not used to players being so chill about her insane demands. Her confusion quickly turns to annoyance as she admits she really doesn't like his attitude. With that, she declares the lesson has begun and dares him to catch her as she vanishes in a burst of speed. A quest window pops up. Find Ria within the time limit to get her swiftness skill, but the rewards are absolute garbage. Hanbit already knows the scam. This quest is designed to drain 25,000 gold over 15 hours of failed attempts. Worse, the quest locks you out of everything else, and the timer even stops when you log out, making it a total trap. While his friend panics, Hanbit calmly explains that if you can't catch her yourself, you just find someone who can. He walks straight towards a specific building, having a plan that doesn't involve running at all. Inside, Atsubel is stunned, asking how on earth he knew that she and the runaway rogue Ria are family. Our boy just spins a complete lie, claiming it's common knowledge on the streets that they're related. Atsubel sighs, too tired to argue with his nonsense, and reluctantly agrees to help him out. In a cutaway, Ju Yunwoo is dumbfounded, trying to process Hanbit's bogus story about some graffiti. He complains that he can't find any proof, but Hanbit just scolds him for not being observant enough. Hanbit then twists the knife, reminding his friend that none of this would be an issue if he hadn't sent Atsubel to jail in the first place. Back in the present, an annoyed Atsubel asks if he's coming, and Hanbit just cheerfully follows along. Meanwhile, Ria is chilling on a rooftop, humming to herself while playing with a cat, thinking she's safe. She's completely confident that those trash-tier players have already given up on the impossible quest. Ria grins, thinking her hiding spot is perfect, only to hear her name called from right behind her. She turns around in absolute shock to find her sister Atsubel standing there, having led the enemy right to her doorstep. Ria is completely dumbfounded, her brain short-circuiting as she tries to process how they found her. Her eyes spin with confusion. This scenario was supposed to be impossible. She accuses our boy of cheating, but Hanbit just smirks, reminding her that she said to use any means necessary. Atsubel steps in, asking to have a word with her little sister, who can only stammer in fear. With a sharp yank to the hair, Atsubel starts lecturing Ria for pickpocketing again. She scolds her relentlessly, asking if she only learns her lesson after getting caught by scumbags. Having made her point, Atsubel tells Ria to meet her at the shop later and to stop wandering off. Hanbit cheerfully thanks Atsubel, leaving a completely dazed Ria to deal with the aftermath. Defeated, she admits she's never met anyone quite like him before as she pulls out the quest reward. A promise is a promise, and she begrudgingly hands over the valuable skill book. The quest completes, rewarding him with a unique grade swiftness skill book, and our boy can only sigh. This world just keeps giving him top-tier items. Ria flies off in a huff, vowing to never see him again, but Hanbit just smirks, knowing their paths are far from over. Just then, Ju Yunwoo finally catches up, panting heavily and asking if he missed all the action. Hanbit proudly presents the unique skill book, leaving his friend and the entire stream chat absolutely dumbfounded. With a wicked grin, he declares that his next stop is to finally learn some proper swordsmanship. Yunwoo is still struggling to catch his breath, completely floored that he arrived just a second too late. Our boy just lets him stare, enjoying the absolute meltdown happening in his stream's chat over the stolen content. He holds the glowing book aloft, ready to absorb its power and take another step forward in his grand plan. The book dissolves into particles of light that flow into his body, a strange game mechanic he's still not used to. Yunwoo relays the chat's question about why he learned haste, but Hanbit cryptically implies the reason should be obvious. He explains that if two people are running at the same speed, even a tiny boost can decide the winner. Yunwoo is still confused, arguing that the haste skill's effect is so small it's practically unnoticeable. Our boy just scoffs, telling him to try dying over 50 times, then he might finally understand the value of a single step. Changing the subject, Yunwoo proudly whips out his sword, boasting that he's the senior when it comes to swordsmanship. Hanbit just deadpans that the chat is absolutely roasting him for flexing his trash-tier high-grade skill. This gets Hanbit thinking. He realizes that almost every player, including his friend, is following the exact same progression path. It all clicks into place. They're all just blindly following a popular guidebook, considered the Bible for beginners. He now understands why no one ever cleared Atsubel's quest. It was because that scumbag Julio's scam prevented anyone from ever reaching her. In the original timeline, Atsubel would have been taken away, and Ria would have become just another forgotten NPC in a back alley. The fact that he was the first to break this cycle and clear their quests means something far more significant is at play. It all clicks for Hanbit. Every single one of his past lives was a hint pointing him to the correct path. With a new fire in his eyes, He declares he's going to clear this game his own way. He still has no clue what that meddling goddess is plotting, but he's absolutely done being her puppet on a string. So, he takes Yunwoo on a long detour, completely ignoring the popular swordsmanship NPC from the guides. After a long walk, Hanbit finally points to a secluded pagoda in the distance. The two of them shout up to the shadowy figure inside, asking to be taught swordsmanship. The master, a rugged-looking hermit, just sips his drink, completely unimpressed. All they get in response is a single, bone-chilling glare from beneath his hat. Yunwoo is instantly terrified, remembering just how chilling this man's presence is. The swordsman, Balder, finally descends, his aura screaming that he's on a whole different level. His first and only instruction is chillingly simple. Swing the wooden sword and don't stop until he says so. Hanbit glances at the flimsy training weapon, ready to abandon his pride and follow the master's orders. Balder's eyes flash with intensity. He makes it clear that for those who want to learn the sword, words are useless. Without hesitation, our boy unstraps his real sword, fully committing to this trash-tier training method. He begins swinging with a force that echoes his countless past lives, each movement precise and powerful. Meanwhile, Yunwoo recalls that this quest has 2 stages, with the second being a deadly duel against Balder himself. He remembers a clip of some cocky player mocking the seemingly drunk NPC, asking how he'd like to be killed. Balder's response was to calmly choose horizontally, before instantly bisecting the dumbfounded player. Shuddering at the memory, Yunwoo realizes this NPC can PK players, and now he's terrified for Hanbit. Suddenly, Yunwoo starts freaking out as the stream donations explode with bets on Hanbit's training time. He screams that the prize pool is now over 800,000 won, but our boy just looks annoyed at the distraction. Hanbit turns his back on the noise, focusing completely on the simple wooden sword in his hand. He closes his eyes, entering a deep meditative state, tapping into the discipline from his 55 past lives. It dawns on him that the most important part of this training isn't the count or the time limit. He realizes Balder doesn't expect beginners to have any real ability. He's looking for something else entirely. Most players just pick up a sword thinking it's the easiest weapon, a mindset that reeks of disrespect. To a true master like Balder, that kind of shallow attitude must be a constant, infuriating insult. Hanbit finally understands what the quest is truly about. Balder only wants to see a sincere attitude toward the sword. As their gazes lock, a silent acknowledgement passes between them. The master has found a worthy student. Just as our boy is about to swing, the master raises his hand, signaling him to stop. Balder simply says, "That's enough," leaving the onlookers completely dumbfounded since Hanbit never even moved. A system notification pops up, and Hanbit cracks a smirk, realizing his gambit paid off perfectly. Turns out, showing proper respect unlocked a hidden quest, a one-on-one duel with the master himself. Watching the stream, Jae-ha Kim is shocked to see the quest move on to stage 2 already. He can't believe Hanbit cleared the first part in under a minute, while the chat explodes in disbelief. Hanbit turns to Jae-ha, coolly asking if he's still good for doubling the bet now that things are getting serious. Suddenly, a massive donation comes in, upping the ante. Block 4 times and win, or both he and Luffer go bungee jumping. Our boy considers the new terms. With the difficulty scaling to his skill, this is going to be a tight one. Ju Yeonwoo, meanwhile, is having a full-blown panic attack, screaming about his crippling fear of heights. Hanbit suddenly grabs Jae-ha Kim with a disturbingly friendly smile, leaving the streamer utterly confused. Jae-ha immediately recoils, demanding to know what's with that greasy, shady look in our boy's eyes. Hanbit tries to calm him down, promising that he won't have to go bungee jumping, but the trust me grin he flashes is anything but reassuring. It's the look of a man with a devious plan. He pats the dumbfounded streamer, acting like he's just done him a huge favor. Jae-ha, however, isn't buying it for a second, stammering that this can't be what he thinks it is. Hanbit just repeats his empty promise, which only makes the poor streamer even more anxious. Our boy's confident smirk practically screams that someone is definitely going bungee jumping, and it won't be him. He gives Jae-ha a final, deadpan look, as if to say the matter is settled, much to the streamer's horror. Suddenly, a massive donation from Sword God pops up, adding 1,000,000 won and sarcastically praising their friendship. Hanbit is momentarily stunned by the sheer amount of money, realizing the total has now hit a whopping 1.8 million won. The hermit swordsman, Balder, simply waits for him, and our boy knows it's time to get serious. With a subtle motion, Balder grips his wooden sword, ready to begin the lesson. A brilliant blue aura suddenly envelops his blade, signaling this is no ordinary training session. Hanbit charges in, but Balder explodes forward with blinding speed to meet him head-on. The old master's footwork is insane, kicking up a storm of dirt and pure energy. He unleashes a devastating whirlwind slash, his power radiating outwards in a massive wave. A grin spreads across Hanbit's face. He can feel it in his bones that the real fight is just beginning. Their wooden swords clash with the force of a thunderclap, the impact shaking the very ground. But Baldur's strike is on another level entirely, shattering Hanbit's weapon into 1,000 pieces. The onlooking players are completely stunned, wondering if the old master NPC is bugged because he's never been this ferocious. Kang Hanbit grits his teeth, struggling to withstand the sheer bone-crushing pressure from the master's assault. But our boy isn't out yet, channeling his own aura to form a new, shimmering blade from the broken hilt. The spectators can't believe their eyes. He actually managed to endure a direct hit from that monster. Even the hermit swordsman seems a little surprised, letting out a small sigh of acknowledgement. The master doesn't let up, however, gathering a swirling vortex of energy as he prepares to unleash another devastating technique. Hanbit defiantly raises his makeshift mana sword, ready to meet the incoming storm head-on. Their blades, one of simple wood and the other of pure energy, are on a collision course once again. The resulting clash is explosive, with Hanbit barely managing to deflect the overwhelming force of the master's strike. He quickly realizes his movements feel sluggish, blaming the low synchronization rate of his gear for dulling his real-world combat senses. His mana blade digs into the ground, barely absorbing the impact of the master's overwhelming power. Hanbit quickly dodges away, thankful that he at least took the time to learn the swiftness skill. The hermit swordsman pauses, noting that our boy seems to have a lot weighing on his mind. He asks if Hanbit is just putting on a brave face, or if he's genuinely surprised by this turn of events. Hanbit just smirks, retorting that the master seems just as shocked, a move that leaves the spectators dumbfounded. The master's eyes narrow. He tells Hanbit that he's got the wrong idea about who he's dealing with. Done with the pleasantries, he declares he'll end this now and unleashes a brutal strike that sends Hanbit flying. But even while being blasted away, Hanbit grins like a madman, yelling that the fight isn't over yet. In a flash, Hez right back in the master's face, ready to land a decisive blow with his broken hilt. He swings with everything he's got, as his friend watching the stream screams his name in panic. A nearby player watches in horror, thinking this trash-tier quest shouldn't be this impossibly hard. But our boy manages to dodge the lethal blow by a hair's breadth, much to the crowd's relief. Hanbit realizes that even with the game's insane physics, the master's patterns are becoming predictable. He can practically feel the hermit's anxiety growing under that stupid straw hat. The master is getting desperate because Hanbit is holding out way longer than any normal player should. So he lunges forward, unleashing another furious attack meant to put our boy down for good. But Hanbit meets the strike head-on, parrying the blow with his broken hilt in a shower of sparks. The hermit is completely dumbfounded. This kid should have been dust particles by now. With a wicked grin, Hanbit points out that the master's movements have gotten bigger and sloppier. Seizing the opening, he sweeps the hermit's legs, sending the so-called master crashing to the ground. The hermit's sword lies on the ground, crackling with a menacing blue energy that stops Hanbit in his tracks. Our boy can't help but sweat, realizing that last move was way more dangerous than he anticipated. But the master isn't finished. He digs his heels into the dirt, halting his fall with pure grit. He rises like a demon, shrouded in a crackling aura, absolutely livid that some rookie pushed him this far. Hanbit braces himself, gripping his flimsy wooden sword for the inevitable counterattack. The hermit's glowing blade comes crashing down, meeting the wooden practice sword with a deafening impact. The cheap wood immediately begins to splinter, unable to withstand the sheer force of the master's strike. In an instant, Hanbit's sword shatters into 1,000 pieces, leaving him completely disarmed. He grits his teeth, knowing he's in a seriously bad spot without a weapon. But the hermit is just as stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief as a splinter flies right past his face. The hermit just stands there, his killing intent completely gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. Our boy collapses to the ground, realizing he successfully parried 4 times, which must have been the real mission. A massive grin spreads across his face as he celebrates his victory, completely drained but satisfied. A system window confirms it. The duel ended because his trash-tier sword broke, clearing the quest. Just then, his buddy Yunwoo runs up, already asking when he's going to get his cut of the reward. Yunwoo presses him, needing to know if he's actually going to get paid for this madness. But Hanbit's expression suddenly turns dead serious as he leans in and brings up their military days. He grabs Yunwoo's shoulder with a grip that sends a shiver down his friend's spine. Totally freaked out, Yunwoo demands to know what Hanbit did before the army, while our boy thinks about his 55 lives of hell. Hanbit plays it cool, but Yunwoo reveals the stream chat is guessing everything from assassin to samurai, none of them even close to the truth. Yunwoo asks if all the mission money is going to Hanbit's stream persona, and our boy confirms it without hesitation. Dumbfounded, Yunwoo questions the arrangement, but Hanbit insists he keep it all since he earned it with his own physical stats. Hanbit then casually mentions Hez just glad he didn't have to go bungee jumping, referencing a stream punishment. The chat erupts, mocking him for bluffing, and he's genuinely shocked they didn't think he'd actually do it. Suddenly, a massive donation from Sword God pops up, and Yeonwoo immediately starts thanking the big spender. But Hanbit isn't paying attention anymore. His gaze is fixed on something in the distance. He spotted the hermit swordsman, Balder, the very man he just defeated, leaning silently against a tree. Hanbit can immediately sense it. That man is absolutely fuming under his calm exterior. He might look quiet, but our boy knows he's barely containing a storm of pure rage. Hanbit realizes the master is probably blaming himself for having his every move read by a so-called rookie. The hermit swordsman, with a grimace, finally confirms that their duel is over. He tells Hanbit to wait right there and then stiffly walks away, clearly still reeling from the loss. Our boy knows exactly what's up. The master is gritting his teeth in frustration, and he pities whoever has to face him next. A moment later, the swordsman returns and silently hands over a glowing skill book as the promised reward. Hanbit takes it, realizing this is the 4th unique skill he's managed to snag, adding swordsmanship to his arsenal. A system window pops up with absolutely insane rewards. 3,000 gold and a unique swordsmanship manual, all because the master rated his skills so highly. The stream chat explodes, with a new big shot donor begging for private lessons from our boy. But Hanbit couldn't care less, shoving Yeonwoo forward and telling him to handle the reactions because he's got more important things to do. Yeonwoo, ever the opportunist, immediately starts playing it up for the viewers, but the chat hilariously tells him to get lost. Hanbit, ignoring the stream chaos, turns his attention back to the master, calling out to him one last time. He presses the swordsman, sensing there's still something more to this encounter. The master remains silent for a moment, clearly still fuming, but considering our boy's words, he finally speaks, revealing that his own master has moved his residence to Edlin. The swordsman pulls out a cloth, telling Hanbit to show this token if he ever finds him. He guarantees that this will at least get his master to listen to whatever Hanbit has to say. With a flick, he tosses the cloth over, adding a cryptic clue that his master is where the winds gather. A sly grin spreads across Hanbit's face. He knows exactly what that riddle means. He tells Yeonwoo it's time to head back, while his friend is still busy hamming it up for the stream. Another donation pops up, with viewers commenting on how Balder is about to be swamped by other players. Back in the city, Yeonwoo is dumbfounded that an NPC like Balder even has a master, realizing this isn't the game he remembers. Just as Yeonwoo is getting into his streamer persona, our boy Hanbit suddenly announces he's calling it a day, leaving his friend utterly baffled. Hanbit stretches, explaining he's got a real-world job to get to and needs some sleep before he can be a functioning human being. Yeonwoo agrees they had a long session and asks if he'll be back after work, but Hanbit hits the log-off button, cryptically saying he can't. He disconnects from the game, the virtual world dissolving as he removes the sweltering VR headgear. Back in his room, Hanbit is drenched in sweat, wondering how he got so exhausted from the swordsmanship mission when he wasn't even moving his real body. Just as he's about to hit the shower, his phone starts buzzing on the bed. It's a message from Yeonwoo, who sends a cute cat sticker saying he did a great job and that he's sending the payment before crashing for the night. Hanbit sighs, thinking his friend could have just sent the money later, when a bank notification for a 3 million won deposit pops up. His eyes widen as he stares at the number, his brain short-circuiting at the absurdly high payment. Our boy is left completely dumbfounded, staring at his phone, unable to process why he just got paid a small fortune for a single day's work. He clutches his phone, his mind reeling from the massive donation he received in just a single day. For only 10 hours of work, he made a fortune, and the dangerous thought of quitting his job starts to take root. But he shakes it off, remembering how desperately he fought to return to reality, even as the game world tempts him back. He recalls telling his viewers streaming was just a hobby, which only got him flamed by angry commenters calling him a scammer. Then he thinks of Yeonwoo, who sent the 3 million won specifically to bribe him into continuing the stream. His mind is a battlefield. One side wants to dive headfirst into streaming, while the other warns him that this kind of luck is a one-off. He decides the responsible thing to do is find a stable job, if only for his mom's peace of mind. Still, he can't help but smile, thinking it would be nice to use this cash to finally do something for his family. Just as he's lost in thought, his mom's voice cuts through the quiet, shouting his name with increasing urgency. The door slams open and his mom barges in. He groggily asks why she's up so early, only for her to yell back that it's already broad daylight. But she's not here to talk about his sleep schedule. She shoves her phone in his face, demanding to know where this money came from. Turns out, our boy already transferred the 3 million won to her, leaving him completely speechless. She immediately smacks him, accusing him of staying up all night doing something shady behind her back. Hanbit desperately tries to explain that he earned it legitimately, but his mom is having none of it. Her mind immediately jumps to the worst conclusion. He must have gotten the cash from gambling. He quickly tries to change the narrative, reminding her about his friend Yunwoo and the game they were going to play. He explains that they streamed their gameplay. It got way more popular than expected, and he actually earned the money. Our boy puts on his most earnest face, swearing that he would never ever do anything illegal. His mom just sighs, too exhausted to deal with this, and tells him they'll talk after she gets home from work. He insists that He's being serious, but she's already walking out the door, clearly unconvinced by his story. But she stops, turning back to say she does believe him. She's just worried this is becoming a burden. The door clicks shut, leaving our boy alone in the sudden silence of the apartment. His expression hardens with resolve as he makes a silent promise to her. He tells her not to worry, that she won't have to carry the family's debt all by herself anymore. Leaning against the door, he vows to work his ass off so she can finally live in comfort. After all, he's a guy who survived 55 regressions in another world. He figures the weight of reality is nothing in comparison. Or so he thought, as the scene shifts to him getting chewed out by his senior for zoning out at his new internship. His manager leans back and tells him to get his head on straight, and Hanbit is already seething about getting yelled at first thing. A colleague then hands him some work materials, which he notes are complex but neatly organized. As he starts reading, he's dumbfounded to realize he can understand the difficult content with no problem at all. Just as he was about to start, his team leader suddenly calls him over, and our boy can already feel the bad vibes. Turns out, the boss just wanted to harass him, calling him a trial version and picking on things completely unrelated to work. The manager then tosses his card on the desk, ordering Hanbit to go on a coffee run like a common gopher. Unsure of what to get, Hanbit politely asks for the team leader's preference, but the manager just scoffs, clearly annoyed by the simple question. He glares daggers at Hanbit, condescendingly asking if Lee Minho didn't even teach him that everyone drinks iced Americanos. Startled, Hanbit quickly apologizes, claiming he just forgot. But in that moment, he realizes the truth. This trash-tier boss is just looking for any excuse to harass Lee Minho too. It's a simple errand, but every step feels impossibly heavy, dragging him down into the corporate abyss. And just as he feared, when he returns with the coffee, he finds Lee Minho is the one getting an earful from the team leader. Lee Minho just stares blankly, absorbing the manager's tirade as if it's a daily ritual. But then, something inside him finally snaps, and he decides to speak his mind. He calmly explains that with his current workload, taking on more just isn't possible. The manager is dumbfounded, sarcastically congratulating him for finally growing a backbone. In a flash of rage, he smacks the documents out of Minho's hands, sending paper flying everywhere. Just as he's screaming at the poor guy to just do what he's told, Hanbit arrives with the coffee order. Now both Hanbit and Minho are on their knees, forced to clean up the humiliating mess. The manager glares down at them, a nasty suspicion forming that Hanbit's timing was intentional. He scoffs under his breath, calling them both a pair of liars. Back at their desks, Hanbit can see his senior is completely lost in thought, the weight of the office crushing him. Reflected in his monitor, Minho's eyes are completely hollow. The corporate grind has officially broken him. He turns to Hanbit and apologizes for letting him witness such an ugly scene with their manager. Our boy tries to brush it off, but Minho admits there's another reason he's sorry. Turns out, the new project he was given is on the development side, and it's a real beast. It's so demanding that he won't have any time to properly look after Hanbit anymore, and he feels terrible about it. But Hanbit, sharp as ever, recalls the documents he picked up and asks if this new project is related to RP. Minho confirms it, explaining that the game is so complex they have to personally play it for ages to test it. Seeing the perfect opening, Hanbit calmly says he thinks he might be able to help with that. Later that evening, Hanbit gets off the bus after a long day at the office. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out, and a hand waves him down from across the street. Our boy is completely caught off guard, wondering who's calling him. It's none other than his old army senior, Ju Yunwoo, looking way too chipper for a weeknight. Yunwoo immediately points out how wrecked Hanbit looks, but our boy just deadpans that he got a glorious 3 hours of sleep. They head into a nearby coffee shop to talk things over. Hanbit completely collapses into his chair, complaining that corporate life is a special kind of hell and that he could rant about his boss for hours. Despite being utterly drained, he cuts to the chase and asks Yunwoo what he wanted to talk about. With a huge grin, Yunwoo shoves his phone in Hanbit's face, telling him to check this out. Turns out, their stream was a massive hit, and his inbox is now overflowing with offers from all sorts of companies. He points out a message from a huge corporation, Manhwa Gaming, offering a mind-boggling starting salary of 100 million won. Yunwoo explains that everyone is scrambling to sign him, but he thinks he's already found the absolute best option for them. But instead of being excited, Hanbit's face turns absolutely demonic, making Yeonwoo nervously ask what the hell happened at work. Our boy leans in, telling him to stop hiding whatever he's really thinking and just spit it out. Hanbit calls him out on being a trash-tier liar, and Yeonwoo can only stammer out a weak denial. With a terrifying grin, Hanbit looms over him, asking if he really wants to send him back to the hell of corporate life. Yeonwoo starts panicking, trying to explain he didn't mean it like that, but Hanbit calmly says he knows. Then he grabs his friend in a headlock, telling him he shouldn't hide his true feelings while giving him a brutal noogie. A pained scream suddenly erupts from the coffee shop, probably terrifying every other customer inside. Back at the table, Yeonwoo is a sobbing wreck, complaining that Hanbit is just way too mean. He tearfully explains he just wanted to help because he knows Hanbit is struggling with money and is too proud to accept a handout. Hanbit acknowledges that the money would be great, but reminds Yeonwoo that playing the game together was his idea in the first place. Yeonwoo gets serious, saying that what Hanbit wants to do should always come first. He admits that while the game is popular, it just isn't his cup of tea. Turns out, the game's freedom was overwhelming. He barely made progress and realized he'd rather watch than play. For a guy like him, he says, our boy Hanbit is the one who shines the brightest in that world. He imagines all the insane, epic moments that are bound to happen with Hanbit leading the charge. His real dream is to watch it all unfold by his side and share that hype with the whole world. And that's the big pitch. He wants to build an entire media network, an MCN, centered on Hanbit's gameplay. It wouldn't be some stiff corporation, but more like a real-life guild that bridges the game and reality. Hanbit's eyes light up. He remembers Yeonwoo talking about this exact same dream back in the military. But he cuts through the sentiment, getting straight to the point. Forget the memories. How does this plan actually make them money? Yeonwoo explains the recorder platform recently added video uploads, and the ad revenue is already off the charts. And it just so happens our boy Hanbit is the most viral user on there, with his last stream getting promoted to the front page. He envisions a future where Hanbit's streams inspire a whole new generation of role-players to join their cause. He finally asks Hanbit to get serious about broadcasting, leaving our boy dumbfounded. He thought the plan was a normal corporate job. But Yeonwoo drops a bombshell. Hanbit wouldn't be some low-level employee, he'd be the co-CEO. Hanbit just smirks, telling him to forget the fancy titles because he's in, which is all Yeonwoo needed to hear. But as he sips his coffee, Hanbit's real motivations surface. Helping his friend is only part of the reason. His true goal, his last desperate chance, is to use this game to finally reach the mysterious airport. He's betting everything that if he can just clear the game and find that place, he'll finally get some answers. He needs to understand the real reason he was forced to die over and over again in that other world. Just as they're settling their new partnership, Yeonwoo's phone starts buzzing off the hook. He picks it up, a smug grin on his face, ready to bask in his newfound popularity. He brags about how his phone is blowing up, but his expression quickly shifts from cocky to confused. Something is seriously wrong, and the flood of messages has him completely rattled. He turns to Hanbit in a panic, saying he needs to make an urgent call right now, but as he frantically tries to connect, no one is picking up on the other end. Frustrated, he yells at his phone while Hanbit just asks what the hell is going on. Yeonwoo finally starts explaining, reminding Hanbit of that advance party they saw in Edlin with the Golden Bow. Turns out, they're an advance team for a massive German company called Rashton, and the news is bad. Rashton has monopolized the Atsubel quest and somehow cleared out the entire bomb slime field. Yeonwoo explains that the community is now spreading rumors that Hanbit secretly arranged the whole thing with Rashton. The fallout in-game is pure chaos, with players screaming curses at Rashton, Black Dragon, and Loafer for being scammers. One player rages that you can't trust anyone in this world, but his female companion coldly tells him to shut up. She reminds him to be grateful he even got a rare item, since any later and he would have gotten nothing at all. He's still fuming about the first-come, first-served reward system, but she just calls him an idiot for expecting a unique item. She finally threatens to play or kill him if he keeps whining, since Rashton has already cleared out all the bomb slimes. Back in the real world, Yeonwoo says Black Dragon will have no choice but to hold a broadcast to explain himself. Hanbit, however, is already in strategy mode, quietly asking just how big of a corporation Rashton really is. Yeonwoo explains a company's value is based on its players, noting their ranger has a combat power of 9,000. A sly grin forms on Hanbit's face as he realizes there's a way to solve this problem after all. Hanbit tells Yeonwoo to delay the broadcast, explaining he needs to check something important first. Back in the real world, our boy sips his drink, mulling over the final details of his counterattack. That night, while the city sleeps, Hanbit puts his grand scheme into motion. He pulls out an old record book, frantically flipping through pages of forgotten knowledge from his past. He stops on a specific page, having found the exact weakness he was looking for. A confident smirk forms on his lips. He knows exactly how to turn the tables on Rashton. With the record book in hand, he triumphantly confirms he's found the solution. Without wasting a moment, he logs back into the game, ready to execute his plan. He arrives at a familiar cave, confirming the location is exactly where he remembered it would be. Inside, he finds his prize. The bomb slimes are gathering here, just as he predicted. Our boy confidently steps into the heart of the cave, completely unfazed by the swarming bomb slimes. He comes to a halt, his instincts telling him he's right on top of his target. Hanbit knows from experience that these trash-tier mobs only gather like this for one specific reason. With a quick scan of the area, a smirk crosses his face as he locks onto the source of the problem. And there it is, the Bomb Slime King, a pathetic level 7 field boss. This particular boss has a unique trait, passively drawing in and absorbing its smaller brethren to grow in size. But Hanbit's memory is screaming at him. The king's natural pull isn't strong enough to gather a mob this massive. Just then, a suspicious glint of light from a crack in the wall catches his eye. He moves closer and immediately identifies the object as a monster lure, an item used to artificially gather mobs. And bingo, the lure is brazenly stamped with the name and insignia of the Rashton Guild. This monster lure is a rare, one-time use item from a dungeon way up north. Rashton's plan was simple. Plant the lure near the Bomb Slime King, and let the combined pull create this disaster. Our boy finally understands. This is why the entire bomb slime field was completely empty. Seeing a golden opportunity, he doesn't hesitate and instantly casts a fireball. He launches the spell right into the core of the ridiculously dense slime mob. The impact triggers a massive chain reaction, engulfing the entire cave in a fiery explosion. In a single, overwhelming blast, the field boss and its entire army are completely annihilated. The system goes haywire, showering him with experience, 4 level-ups, and a brand new title. Even Hanbit is left speechless, trying to process just how many monsters he just one-shotted. At the same time, a post on the community forums explodes, with players panicking about where all the slimes have gone. Turns out, our boy was the one who recorded the footage of the empty cave. He then had his buddy, Yunwoo, upload the clip anonymously to stir the pot. They deliberately left out the part where he wiped the slimes, so naturally, the forums exploded with rage. But how did he even find the boss? It all started with an NPC named Zentromber, mentioned in the guidebook. This poor miner was the one who originally dug the cave, only to get kicked out by the Bomb Slime King. Hanbit put 2 and 2 together, guessing the slime disappearance was linked to their king's defeat. By confirming Zentromber's backstory, he was able to pinpoint the exact location of the hidden boss. But something about the whole situation felt off to him. He realizes that while the NPC was in the guidebook, the cave itself was completely undocumented. A guidebook isn't meant to hold your hand. The real key is the player's own knowledge and how they connect the dots. He concludes the guidebook is full of information, but it's intentionally spotty and even contains outright lies. It feels like the developers deliberately removed key information, making him wonder who the mysterious adventurer A truly is. Suddenly, we're reminded why magic is a trash-tier skill tree for most players. The brutal proficiency system. One mage player complains that you have to max out proficiency just to learn the next rank of spells, and the grind is absolutely inhuman. He explains that most people just give up, begging for a magic buff before ultimately switching to a different skill tree. But then he turns to our boy, Hanbit, with a look of disbelief. Because somehow, Hanbit managed to hit 100% proficiency in a single day, a feat that just shouldn't be possible. The poor mage is dumbfounded, begging him to say it's just an April Fool's prank. Hanbit tries to play it cool, saying it was only the lowest tier, but the mage wails that even that is hellishly difficult. The guy completely loses it, demanding proof, and screaming that any spell should take at least a month to master. To shut him up, Hanbit pulls up his skill window, proving he's maxed out not just Fireball, but 3 other skills as well. The poor mage just drops to his knees, his entire worldview shattered on the spot. He's in complete denial, crying that it has to be a bug or an exploit, because no human could grind that fast. Our boy just awkwardly says that's how it turned out, though he didn't expect the guy to be this broken up about it. The streamer, whose name is Roper, is confused why Hanbit wants to keep this a secret, since it would pull in crazy views. But Hanbit just gives a sly grin, saying he wants to show their audience something way more fun first. His eyes drift over to a squad of heavily armed NPCs, referring to them as the day's lovely villains. With a flash of blue light, the plan is set in motion. Roper starts his stream, greeting his viewers only to be met with a chat log full of rage and confusion. He quickly tries to do damage control, promising proof and revealing they have zero connection to the monopolizing guild, Rashton. Roper announces that before our boy goes on his main quest, he's got a special show for the viewers. Hanbit casually asks the NPC, Atsubel, if her daughter Ria has run off again, and she sadly confirms it. Atsubel laments that her daughter just won't listen, clearly heartbroken over their situation. Our boy, showing knowledge no newbie should have, reassures her that it's just a phase and they'll be reunited soon. A glimmer of hope returns to Atsubel's eyes as she thanks him for the kind words. She then asks what he needs, and he cuts right to the chase, asking to learn his next spell, which sends the chat into a frenzy of disbelief. To everyone's shock, Atsubel happily agrees, leaving the viewers dumbfounded as to how he's bypassing all the usual requirements. Without any hesitation, she slides a powerful-looking magic book across the counter to him. A quest window pops up, revealing an insane heroic tier reward, and the chat absolutely explodes, realizing this is a hidden, limited-time quest. Hanbit coolly picks up the book, another piece of his grand plan falling perfectly into place. Outside, a massive crowd of players presses against the windows, dumbfounded by what they're witnessing. Hanbit flips open the ancient tome, its pages glowing with raw, untamed magical energy. A torrent of light erupts from the book, flowing directly into our boy as he absorbs its forbidden knowledge. System notifications flood his vision. Not only did he complete the quest, but its rank was upgraded from heroic to the legendary unique tier. Ju Yunwoo loses his mind, screaming to his stream that Hanbit just learned Fireburst and got a unique rank up, something almost unheard of. Before he leaves, Atsubel gives him a crucial tip. If he ever gets stuck, he should seek out the magic research lab in the city of Ifrit. Hanbit and Ju Yunwoo finally step outside, walking straight past the stunned crowd that had been waiting for them. The sheer size of the mob is intimidating, and Ju Yunwoo feels a shiver of fear as the chat points out a notorious player named Rashton in the crowd. From beneath his hood, the infamous ranker Rashton watches them with a predatory gaze, a smirk playing on his lips. The crowd parts like the sea as our boy walks through, locking eyes with Rashton in a silent, bone-chilling challenge. Instead of being intimidated, our boy just smirks at Rashton and tells the top ranker to chill out. But under his breath, Hanbit prays that his risky plan is actually going to work this time. Turns out, Rashton's crew has been ruthlessly camping the library, trying to bully Atsubel into giving them the magic book. They've completely monopolized the quest area, and other players can only watch, commenting on their sheer ruthlessness. From a safe distance, Hanbit and Yunwoo observe the situation, with Yunwoo noting how greedy Rashton's group is. Yunwoo is panicking that they'll lose the opportunity, but Hanbit just poses a cryptic question about the difference between him and them. The difference becomes clear. Rashton is trying to brute force the quest, handing out books to his entire party to open on his signal. As Rashton begins his countdown with 1, our boy slowly gets to his feet. He tells a completely dumbfounded Yunwoo that it's time to go. On the count of 2, Hanbit breaks into a full sprint, a confident smirk plastered on his face as his plan kicks into high gear. On the count of 3, Rashton's entire party opens their magic books in unison. Rashton himself clutches his own book, a greedy smirk on his face, absolutely certain of his victory. But just as they do, Hanbit arrives on the scene, a chilling smile spreading across his face as he declares it's showtime. Suddenly, every single book held by Rashton's crew erupts into a violent, magical inferno. His party members are sent into a panic, screaming in agony as they wonder why their precious books are suddenly on fire. They try desperately to stomp out the flames, but it's no use. Turns out, fire mixed with wind magic is impossible to extinguish in this game. Behind the counter, Atsubel watches the chaos unfold with a cold, terrifying smile, clearly enjoying the show. Her amusement quickly turns to rage as she screams at the top of her lungs for everyone to get out of her now ruined shop. Yunwoo is completely starstruck, finally understanding the genius behind Hanbit's plan, while our boy just looks on, dead inside. But the real kicker comes when one of Rashton's men runs up to him, completely dumbfounded, exclaiming that the quest rewards have suddenly changed. Turns out, the quest was first come, first served, and the rewards tanked after just a few completions, screwing over everyone who came after Rashton's crew. Rashton, trying to make sense of the chaos, asks another player just how many people actually succeeded, only to be told the answer is 0. He falls silent, the gears in his head turning as pure rage starts to build. Without a word, he storms towards our heroes, and Yunwoo immediately panics, warning Hanbit that the pissed-off ranker is coming for them. Rashton stops right in front of them, but Hanbit doesn't even flinch, just smirks back at him, ready for whatever comes next. The ranker gets right in his face, calling him a newbie and demanding they have a little chat. Hanbit plays it cool, asking with a cocky grin what a big shot like him could possibly want to talk about. Rashton cuts straight to the point, demanding to know how Hanbit was the only one to succeed at the quest. Our boy just shrugs, telling the veteran that it's a problem for him to figure out on his own. Rashton is absolutely fuming, asking if this is all a joke, while other players mock him for getting mad after his copycat plan backfired. Rashton lays it all out, explaining that all 50 players who tried, including him, failed and lost their chance at a hero grade. He then accuses our boy of ruining the opportunity for everyone else, claiming it couldn't have been a simple coincidence. But Hanbit just smirks, telling him he never said it was, while Yeonwoo begs him to take it easy as the chat starts buzzing. The ranker is absolutely seething, his face twisting in pure rage at Hanbit's complete lack of respect. Our boy then drops the first clue, asking if proficiency is the basis for ranking up in this game. He then condescendingly asks if any of them even bothered to max out their proficiency before trying for the magic book. Rashton is dumbfounded, questioning what proficiency has to do with anything, and asking if Hanbit is calling him an idiot. Hanbit explains it like Hez talking to a child, using the simple example of needing to master Fireball to learn the next spell. This sends Rashton over the edge, who screams that the rule applies to everyone, so Hanbit must have cheated it too. But Hanbit just hits him with a goofy pose, casually revealing that, unlike them, he actually maxed his out, leaving everyone speechless. Rashton is completely dumbfounded, his brain short-circuiting as the stream chat roasts him for panicking. Our boy just smirks, telling the ranker to check the stream if he doesn't believe it, while Yeonwoo cheers that his buildup was insane. Hanbit mocks them, questioning if they're really top-tier vanguard since they couldn't figure out a basic game mechanic. He then pulls up his stats, revealing every single one of his skills is maxed out, sending the chat into a frenzy over the impossible feat. Rashton, refusing to accept reality, accuses him of hacking and threatens to report him, but Hanbit just invites him to try. With a grin, Hanbit grabs his hood, calling the threat childish and noting he looks quite young for his age. The chat immediately exposes that Rashton is 30, and the public humiliation sends the ranker into a silent, seething rage. He storms off, vowing revenge, while Hanbit gives him some parting advice to actually play the game instead of just controlling zones. The scene then shifts as a door slides open, revealing our boy is already on to his next scheme. Turns out, he sixed a mob of players on Atsubel, ordering them to pester her relentlessly and not miss a single opportunity. Our boy smirks, thinking that no matter how hard they try, his plan is foolproof, though he feels a tiny bit sorry for Atsubel. This triggers a memory of his past life, where his master, a woman identical to Atsubel, was a ruthless instructor who believed magic was pure math. Her harsh methods were born from experience, having seen countless greedy fools die in the graveyards of their own ambition. She refused to let him advance until his basics were perfect, but Hanbit admits his own impatience and greed got the better of him. He remembers getting caught cutting corners and being unceremoniously kicked out, told never to return. Turns out, the NPC Atsubel is cut from the exact same cloth. Her core principles are unbreakable, even by the game's system. Hanbit explains his master plan to a tired-looking Yeonwoo. The more Rashton's crew whines, the lower their affinity with Atsubel will drop. Yeonwoo nervously points out that he was pretty harsh, and now they're at risk of getting flamed by Rashton's massive fanbase. Hanbit just gives him a thumbs up, sarcastically wishing him luck, leaving Yeonwoo dumbfounded since he wasn't the one who started the fight. As the chat declares war on Yeonwoo's channel, Hanbit grabs his hair, reminding him that since it's his stream, he's the one in big trouble. Despite the drama, Yeonwoo's chat is loving it, and he even gets a donation for the satisfying content. Hanbit suddenly decides they need to stop by the village shop, confusing Yeonwoo, who thought they were heading straight for Master Balder. Our boy just smirks, saying he has something to prepare first, leaving Yeonwoo completely in the dark. As they enter the town square, they're immediately greeted by a massive crowd of players blocking the way. Yeonwoo is baffled by the commotion, but Hanbit hints that his friend, the streamer, should know what's up. Hanbit plays dumb, giving a questioning look as if he has no idea what's going on. Yeonwoo points out the center of all the fuss, a famous ranker named Rafina, one of the game's few elementalists. She flashes a smug smile, and the mere sight of her sends the player base into an absolute meltdown. Hanbit, however, seems completely unimpressed, just observing the scene with a thoughtful expression. Yeonwoo explains that elementalists are a rare breed because they have to be chosen by spirits, a trash-tier hurdle most players can't pass. But Hanbit knows better, thinking to himself that you don't just use spirits. It's a completely different relationship from what these players understand. His mind flashes back to a time long past, vividly recalling the sacred moment he first formed a true pact with a spirit. Snapping back to reality, he looks at his own hand, lost in the memory of that genuine power. Turning to his friend, our boy plays dumb and asks just how strong this Rafina really is. Yeonwoo excitedly explains she's a vanguard ranked in the 4000 ses, specializing in water magic, which leaves Hanbit dumbfounded since he thought she was an elementalist. Turns out, her elementalist title is mostly for show, The crowd gossips that her spirit skills are stuck at a pathetic rank 3, barely stronger than a common skill. Loving the attention, Rafina smirks as the crowd begs her to show them her spirits, ready to put on a show. Yunwoo asks if Hanbit is also interested in spirits, and our boy just says their power is obviously something to be desired. As she begins to summon, Hanbit scoffs internally. Spirits are nothing like magic, and even in a game, true innate talent is everything. A brilliant blue aura erupts from Rafina, dazzling the crowd with a flashy but ultimately shallow display of power. The surrounding players are completely captivated, calling the display beautiful. Our boy smirks, asking if this means she's one of the lucky few blessed with innate talent. Yunwoo confirms she's extremely talented, claiming she communed with both water and wind spirits in just 6 months. With a flourish, she summons forth 2 distinct elemental forms, one of swirling water and the other of rushing wind. 2 beautiful spirits, one of water and one of wind, manifest before the ecstatic crowd. Yunwoo is completely starstruck by the sight, but Hanbit just smirks, admitting it's flashy but seeing right through the facade. As the spirits dance, Hanbit cuts to the chase, asking how long she's been stuck at a measly rank 3. Yunwoo figures it's been about 10 months, guessing she can't fill the proficiency gauge, but Hanbit knows it's a problem proficiency can't solve. He then probes further, asking if she's the #1 elementalist, and Yunwoo whispers that she's only the best one the public knows about. He explains that since only one player can truly conquer an RP, the top dogs keep their info locked down tight. Information is power. The narrative ponders the hidden world of the top-tier vanguard. As Rafina approaches a majestic castle, our boy Hanbit smirks, feeling a strange sense of kinship with anyone who has communed with spirits. He then grabs Yunwoo, announcing it's time to prepare for their next quest by going shopping. Hanbit just tells him to be patient, promising he'll see what the plan is when they arrive. After buying a ton of seemingly random junk, Yunwoo is completely lost about where they're even going. With a trollish grin, Hanbit finally announces that they've reached their destination. Yunwoo is dumbfounded, staring blankly as Hanbit confirms that this random cliffside is the spot. Hanbit explains this is where the wind gathers, but to Yunwoo, it looks more like the entrance to hell. Suddenly, a quest window appears, tasking them to find the legendary wind swordsman in the Edlin forest. Yunwoo nervously asks how they're supposed to get down, just as a challenge for bungee jumping without a cord pops up. Yunwoo is absolutely losing it, grabbing Hanbit and yelling that this quest is just asking them to die. But when a notification pops up adding 30,000 won to the reward, Hanbit just grins, and Yunwoo gets a terrible feeling of déjà vu. Without a word, our boy firmly grabs Yunwoo's shoulder, his intentions crystal clear. Yunwoo pleads with him, explaining that even in a game, the sensation of splattering against the ground is terrifyingly real. But Hanbit isn't listening and just yeets them both off the cliff, much to the shock and awe of his stream viewers. As they plummet, Yunwoo screams in pure terror, while Hanbit looks as calm as if he were just taking a stroll. The fall seems to go on forever, plunging them deep into the misty abyss below as the chat loses its mind. While Yunwoo has already passed out from the sheer stress, Hanbit calmly scans the area, knowing they're getting close. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light erupts from the chasm below as Hanbit announces that they've finally arrived. An impossibly complex magic circle materializes out of thin air, ready to catch them at the bottom of their insane dive. They land safely, and Hanbit gives the still unconscious Yunwoo a light tap with his foot, dealing a whopping 1 point of damage. Yunwoo wakes up in a panic, thinking he almost died, but Hanbit just grins, coolly announcing that the mission was a success. Meanwhile, the stream chat is going wild as news spreads that hundreds of players who tried to follow them are now just stains at the bottom of the canyon. Hanbit cheekily tells his viewers he'll reveal the secret after the Vanguard players try and fail another 10,000 times, but Yunwoo suddenly spots something. High above them on a precarious ledge sits a lone figure, who Hanbit immediately identifies as the master of the swordsman Balder. Yunwoo realizes this must be the legendary wind swordsman they're looking for, and asks if their quest is already over, to which Hanbit confidently agrees. Absolutely buzzing with excitement, Yunwoo thinks they're about to claim a world-first discovery and gets ready to rush forward. But our boy stops him, whispering that this is going to be a real spectacle and that Yunwoo should get a good angle for his stream. Yunwoo is so touched by this gesture that he starts crying, moved that his friend is helping him become a true streamer. Hanbit just tells him to stop making a fuss and get going, giving him a friendly push towards their objective. Gassed up, Yunwoo sprints ahead, yelling to his viewers that they're about to witness a world-first discovery. But his victory lap is cut short when a blade shoots out of the wall, smacking him right in the face for a measly 1 point of damage. The chat erupts with laughter as Yunwoo is left completely dumbfounded, the sheer shock of the trap paralyzing him. He whirls around, accusing Hanbit of setting him up. But our boy just smirks and says all that matters is that he didn't die. Before Yeonwoo can argue, Hanbit calmly materializes a bow, his playful demeanor vanishing in an instant. He draws the string back, taking aim with a cold, focused expression that shuts Yeonwoo up immediately. An arrow zips past Yeonwoo's head, embedding itself perfectly into the cliff face just inches from his ear. Yeonwoo breaks into a cold sweat, stammering as he realizes he might have just poked a bear he shouldn't have. Suddenly, a whole volley of arrows flies from Hanbit's bow with impossible speed. They all slam into the wall around Yeonwoo, who can only stand there frozen in absolute terror, realizing this is no longer a game. With the intimidation tactic over, Hanbit casually tells a still shaking Yeonwoo that it's time to move. Yeonwoo is completely bewildered, but our boy just smirks and says he was just firing ahead to check for traps. Before Yeonwoo can even process that lie, the entire cavern begins to shake violently. He looks up in horror to see a gigantic boulder careening down the narrow passage, right towards them. Yeonwoo absolutely loses it, screaming that they're trapped in the corridor with no room to escape, but Hanbit just flashes a wild grin, declaring that there's no need to dodge anyway. A massive ball of fire erupts from his hand, slamming straight into the oncoming boulder. The explosion not only shatters the rock, but completely obliterates the floor beneath it, creating a deep chasm. Hanbit peers into the darkness, taunting whoever set the trap to keep trying, before telling Yeonwoo to get a move on. As they press forward, more deadly traps spring from the walls, forcing Hanbit to drag the screaming Yeonwoo to safety. Without breaking a sweat, our boy Hanbit starts casually swatting away the incoming arrows with his bow. His viewers are absolutely losing their minds, dumbfounded by his insane physical stats. Yeonwoo suddenly panics, realizing they're completely out of arrows, but Hanbit just calmly agrees. Unfazed, he says it's fine and that hell just use his sword from now on. With his blade drawn and glowing with mana, he tells a nervous Yeonwoo to keep his eyes peeled. Yeonwoo tries to hype up his stream, announcing that Hanbit is deflecting arrows with his sword, but his chat just roasts him for stating the obvious. As they sprint forward, Hanbit becomes a whirlwind of steel, effortlessly parrying a storm of glowing projectiles. The traps get even more vicious, with axes and spiked maces now flying at them from all directions. Just as Yeonwoo cheers that they're almost there, Hanbit suddenly screams for everyone to stop. He slams his foot down, grinding to a halt right before they run into whatever new hell awaits them. A spear trap springs from the floor, leaving Yeonwoo dumbfounded as he realizes he was a hair's breadth from death. He asks our boy how he knew, and Hanbit just smiles, explaining that after 55 regressions, his body just instinctively knows when he's screwed. Suddenly, another trap triggers and a massive boulder comes hurtling right for Yeonwoo's face. But Hanbit is already moving, shoving him aside and unleashing a fire burst that shatters the rock into a million pieces. He casually dusts himself off, noting they're almost there, while Yeonwoo stares at him, completely drained. Yeonwoo is at his limit, complaining that he's heard just a little further 1,000 times, but Hanbit calmly tells him they've arrived. Not falling for it again, Yeonwoo looks skeptical until Hanbit tells him to just look up. His jaw drops when he sees a lone figure with flowing white hair meditating atop a crystal spire. They actually found the hidden NPC. Overjoyed, Yeonwoo asks if this means they can finally get the skill they've been fighting for. The mysterious swordsman doesn't even turn around, simply telling them to go back. Yeonwoo completely loses it, asking Hanbit if they went through that hellish dungeon for nothing, but our boy just smirks, totally unbothered. Instead of leaving, Hanbit casually sits down, ready to play the long game, leaving Yeonwoo dumbfounded. Totally confused, Yeonwoo asks what his plan is, since the NPC just told them to get lost. Hanbit just tells him to sit and wait, kicking off a battle of pure patience against the master on the spire. Suddenly, the swordsman speaks, asking if they managed to pass the trials she prepared, and Hanbit knew this was the real test. The two of them just sit there in silence, a true master respecting another's territory by not making a move. It turns out the hermit swordsman is actually a woman named Asla, who explains she's extremely wary of outsiders. Hanbit recalls a past life where he tried everything to get her to teach him, even crafting a special liquor, but nothing worked. He remembers that during his 10th regression, he actually managed to possess Asla's body for a time. Through that possession, he absorbed all her knowledge and experiences, which is how he knew the patterns to every single trap in her cave. And it was through that possession that our boy discovered the one surefire way to get into her good graces. The master swordsman's eyes narrow as she recognizes the offering, questioning if it's liquor. She coldly tells him to take it away since she no longer drinks, but Hanbit cheekily asks her to just roll it back down. Asla is left utterly dumbfounded by his audacity, as if the game itself is shocked by his dialogue choices. She tries to stand firm, insisting she's not drinking, but Yeonwoo can only watch in confusion. Hanbit just smirks, thinking to himself that she could have at least hidden her empty bottles a little better. He then goes for the kill, teasingly asking if she's already had a glass or two today. Turns out, she has a whole stash of empties tucked away, completely exposing her little secret. With a confident grin, Hanbit offers the drink again, guaranteeing it's a flavor she's never experienced before. Asla scoffs that a greenhorn couldn't possibly impress her, but Hanbit lays down his final card. Just try it, and if she hates it, they'll leave for good. Caving to temptation, Asla warns them to get lost if the drink is trashed here, and yanks the bottle towards her. She snatches the bottle out of the air, still skeptical about this whole charade. Without another word, she takes a long, hard swig, ready to be disappointed. But in an instant, her eyes flash open. This flavor is something else entirely. A shockwave of energy erupts from her body as the potent brew hits her system. She's completely hooked, chugging another bottle as a system notification declares her sobriety pledge officially broken. Yeonwoo is stunned, realizing this was the master plan behind Hanbit's bizarre shopping spree. With the bottle still to her lips, Asla asks if there's more, and Hanbit knows step 1 is complete. A little later, Yeonwoo can't believe she drank it all, but Hanbit just says that's the real her. Asla lets out a sigh of pure satisfaction, completely won over by our boy's concoction. Asla calmly admits the liquor was decent, and Hanbit internally marvels at how her insane alcohol tolerance hasn't changed a bit. Yeonwoo, still completely lost, asks how he knew the recipe, to which Hanbit gives a trash-tier excuse about a part-time job. Of course, the real secret is a recipe he learned back in his 7th regression, something he's not about to share. Now that her sobriety pledge is broken, he brings up the piece of Baldur's cloth, and her friendly demeanor vanishes instantly. With a piercing glare, she demands to know what Baldur told him, but our boy just plays it cool. She scoffs at his vague answer, tying back her hair as if preparing to throw them out. A moment later, she dismisses them, saying there's nothing she can do for them and they should just leave. But Hanbit smirks, revealing a glowing scroll and claiming he has an offer that no one else in the world could make. This finally gets her attention. She turns back, admitting that he's surprisingly perceptive. Turns out, the Wind Swordsman had countless disciples, but all of them, even the talented Baldur, failed to master her sword and ultimately vanished. She explains that the talent required for her sword is far from simple, her eyes remaining closed as if in deep concentration. It's not about just swinging a blade. She conjures a wisp of green energy, revealing the true requirement. Our boy immediately calls it out as spirit affinity, and Asla seems slightly impressed that he's not completely ignorant. Hanbit knows talent isn't everything. His regressions taught him that building intimacy with spirits is the real key. And to do that, he thinks, meeting Asla is the only way. Just as she unleashes a powerful gust of wind, the sudden gale whips around them, leaving Yeonwoo completely dumbfounded while Hanbit stands his ground. Asla reveals that the spirits have already told her everything about how he passed his trials. They praised his swift movements and excellent judgment, confirming he's no trash-tier swordsman. But then she crushes his hopes, declaring that's his limit and coldly tells him to leave. Yeonwoo freaks out, thinking the stream is a total failure, but Hanbit just grins, knowing this is far from over. Just as his dismissed, a system window explodes into view. It's a hidden quest to persuade Asla, and the rewards are absolutely legendary. Yeonwoo and the entire stream chat completely lose their minds, screaming about the insane luck of stumbling upon a hidden quest. While donations pour in from viewers calling it a bug, Hanbit just calmly realizes this was the intended path all along. He's given 3 choices, and without a second of hesitation, our boy instantly locks in option 3. Hanbit knows Asla's skills are just a bonus. His real goal has always been to open the path to spirit communion. Yeonwoo is utterly dumbfounded, pointing out that trying to befriend the spirit seems like the most impossible choice by far. He gives up trying to understand Hanbit's 5D chess moves, but our boy just roasts him for never even trying to think in the first place. Suddenly, Hanbit's expression shifts as he senses a presence, whispering that they've finally arrived. He closes his eyes and focuses, channeling his energy as the spirits begin to swirl around him in a brilliant blue light. As he focuses, a quiet chime echoes in his mind. A system notification pops up, announcing a new effect for his unique title. Recorder of 55 Regressions has been unlocked. Turns out, all his past life experience is now unsealed, massively boosting his skills and, most importantly, his spirit affinity. Hanbit knows this is huge. Spirits don't just show up for anyone, and building trust with them is a nightmare. He wonders if the game developers somehow perfectly replicated the real method of communicating with them. Deciding there's only one way to find out, he begins a fluid, ritualistic dance to call upon them. It works instantly, as a system message declares the wind spirit sylph is now intensely curious about him. Ethereal, glowing hands begin to materialize from the wind, reaching out towards our boy. Hanbit looks up in utter shock, recognizing the spirit as if he's just met an old friend from another life.